Hey Guy, I'm sure everyone here has heard stories about pirates, those sea bandits who spent their lives looting treasure and adventuring around the world. But have you ever wondered where piracy began and why it arose? Today's story will take us through the history of piracy, its thrilling adventures, and how it evolved over the centuries. Listen to the entire tale to find out. If you enjoy it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more great stories. Chapter 1. The Origins of Piracy. In the thin veil of human history, the sight of shadowy figures darting across a ship's deck, gripping clubs and blades, emerged very early, when humankind first unlocked the power of the sailing vessel. Let us close the noisy door of the present, huddle by the soft glow of an oil lamp, and listen to the long, winding tale of the ocean wanderers, the primordial pirates, from antiquity until history at last ended their reign. As early as the 2nd millennium BCE, the coastal civilizations of the Mediterranean knew the craft of sea robbery. Back then, the concept of pirate was steeped in legend, mingled with wandering tribes, mobile whale hunting groups, and the so-called sea peoples, referenced in numerous Egyptian inscriptions. They seized provisions, textiles, and even kidnapped captives to sell as slaves in the markets of Thebes or Memphis. Archaeological finds, Mycenaean pottery shards or small ship motifs on the walls of Karnak, hint at the life of sailors and privateers during the New Kingdom's Golden Age in Egypt. In Sumer and Akkad, more than 3,000 years ago, cuneiform tablets occasionally mention river pirates. Lacking the resources to build large ships, these raiders used small boats, exploiting the twisting channels and marshes along the Tigris-Euphrates to ambush merchant flotillas. Chronicles from Uruk describe how King Sargon's court established a river guard to protect the capital. Yet these guards themselves carried carved lion-head chairs, symbols of authority that they wielded instead as instruments of intimidation and bait for inexperienced fishermen. Far to the east in the Indian Ocean, from the mid-2nd millennium BCE, the spice and pearl traders of the Indus Delta encountered indigenous pirate bands. Aboard small dhows with triangular sails, they wove between the Lakshadweep Isles to strike Cham merchant vessels bound for Alexandria on the Egyptian coast. The shouts of battle, the clang of metal, the wind roaring through the masts. All these scenes live on in Malay oral epics as mournful sea shanties. Returning to the Mediterranean, the post-Bronze Age saw the rise of Illyrian pirates from the Balkan coast. They built fortified outposts on Pharos and along Dalmatia, lying in wait for Greek shipments of ceramics and wine. Roman historians record that in 230 BCE, Rome was forced to haul ships over the Alps by land, literally dragging hulls across mountain passes to deploy a fleet against the Illyrian corsairs. The image of bound captives tortured with seawater and thrown into dark holds was etched not only in stone, but also into the minds of Roman soldiers through their chronicles. We cannot omit the Phoenician pirates, famed for their shipbuilding and celestial navigation. From city-states like Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos, they sailed thousands of miles, carrying cedarwood, marine silk and coloured glass to the Persian Gulf, then onward to the Red Sea and East Africa. Wherever negotiations faltered, Phoenician corsairs appeared. They wore red headscarves, flew stingray flags to signal one another, and exploited moonlit nights on calm seas to gain the element of surprise. In the Far East, ancient China also battled coastal piracy. The Spring and Autumn Annals note that around the 6th century BCE, in the East China Sea off modern Zhejiang, lawless seafarers preyed on salt and silk ships. Organised into flying squadrons to elude imperial troops, they sometimes ranged as far as the Han River. The Zhou court, and later the Qin dynasty, built coastal fortresses with stone watchtowers and weekly patrols to block these pirate fleets. Meanwhile, in the North and Black Seas, early Cretan and Minoan sailors suffered raids by Aegean pirates. Islands like Thera, Melos and Naxos became transshipment points for slaves and plunder, under the guise of fishing hamlets. Linear A and Linear B tablets at Knossos and Pylos recount how wine cellar storage rooms were flattened, jars smashed by rats during nocturnal pirate rampages. Of course, no account of ancient piracy is complete without legendary captains like Glaucus, said in Greek myth to have sailed a corbeta into Etruria, forging a pirate league, or Timochares of Tarsus, who ambushed a Carthaginian squadron in the Strait of Sicily. In the writings of Polybius and Appian, their tactics, division of spoils, and even the psychology of their crews are described in detail, later studied as naval doctrine by Roman strategists. In the Indian Ocean, beyond Malay corsairs, seafarers from East Africa, the Comoros, and the Seychelles roamed the monsoon winds. They swept from Madagascar to India's shores, then through the Strait of Malacca, where Chinese and Arab merchants amassed cargo. 9th century Arab chroniclers record how they seized soap and precious metals, forcing captives to man the oars in place of local crews. The tumult of ancient piracy rocked trading ports and challenged the central powers of empires. From the Ptolemaic court in Egypt to Roman Ming China, rulers dispatched armies, built fortifications, or even paid tribute to pirate bands. Indeed, many states kept pirates as a semi-official force to intimidate rivals or extend their own influence. Amid the steady slap of waves against wooden hulls, the tang of salt, wet sailcloth, and the silhouettes pacing on dimly lit decks, we have sketched the outline of piracy's birth, outlaws trusting wind and wave, living by plunder and slave trade. In the next instalment, we will delve into the golden era of Mediterranean and Red Sea piracy, when the names of corsairs became nightmares for merchants across the continents. Breathe deeply, let the ocean's roar subside, and await the next part, when the sails of history once more fill with wind. When the moon climbs high, casting the sea in silver light, we continue our voyage through the haze of history and enter the golden age of the first pirates, those who sowed terror and became legends. The centuries before the Common Era witnessed the explosive growth of the great Mediterranean civilizations, accompanied by booming maritime trade. But as laden merchant ships plied the waves, the pirates realized that the ocean was calling to them. A silent war began between merchant vessels and pirate galleys, stretching from the Aegean Sea to the Strait of Gibraltar, from the bustling harbours of Alexandria to the lively docks of Sidon. First, set foot on the waters of Greece, where the earliest pirate names entered history and poetry. Around 400 BCE, the small islands of the Aegean and Ionian, Crete, Lemnos, and Rhodes, saw the rise of nimble flotillas led by charismatic chiefs. These bands preyed upon ships carrying olive oil, wine, ceramics, and precious metal jewellery. Stone inscriptions even record leaders like Dionysius of Phakia and Cleon of Rhodes in vivid detail. Notably, ancient Greek piracy was not driven solely by greed. Instead, it served as a means for small city-states to assert power and independence under the shadow of greater empires like Persia and later Macedonia. Intriguingly, Rhodes itself maintained a strong naval force to protect critical sea lanes, while secretly sponsoring pirate crews to pressure rival neighbours. Leaving the Greek seas, we venture into the wider Mediterranean, especially the waters off Cilicia in modern Turkey. From roughly 150 to 67 BCE, Cilicia rose as the world's greatest pirate stronghold. Its corsairs boasted vast numbers of ships, well-organised land bases, and even their own ports for trading slaves and plunder. Cilicia became a whispered dread among Roman, Greek, and Egyptian merchants alike. According to Plutarch, the Cilician pirates behaved oddly refined. They kidnapped the wealthy for ransom, yet treated their captives with courtesy. In 75 BCE, a young Julius Caesar was seized by them, yet lived among his captors, playing games and reciting poetry, teasing that once free he would come back to punish them, a promise he famously fulfilled after rising to military power. Along the Adriatic and Ionian coasts, pirate bands also terrorized Roman and Egyptian traders, coming past Dalmatia and Epirus. Towns such as Brindisium, Apollonia, and Salona became hotspots where merchants paid clandestine tolls to pass unharmed. Meanwhile, in North Africa, Carthage maintained a complicated relationship with pirates. In peacetime, it provided them refuge, protection, and even secret funding to harass its greatest rival, Rome. In war, those same corsair fleets served as Carthage's unofficial naval force, disrupting enemy supply lines. Farther east, the ancient Red Sea saw a boom in Arab piracy. Small, swift vessels lay in wait at narrow choke points like the Bab el-Mandeb, straight, targeting spice, incense, gold, and gem-laden ships from Yemen and the Persian Gulf bound for Egypt and Rome. Ancient chronicles describe lightning-fast engagements. Grappling hooks hauled merchantmen alongside, then boarding parties surged aboard, with curved swords and wooden shields. Not only the Mediterranean and Red Sea, but also East Asia, experienced its pirate heyday. From about the 2nd century BCE, the so-called woku, initially Japanese sailors, later joined by Korean and Chinese outcasts, roamed the seas off the Korean peninsula and eastern China. They pillaged coastal villages and struck fear into empires. To counter them, the Han, and later the Tang dynasty, built coastal fortresses and garrisoned watchtowers, even bribing the most formidable pirate chiefs to serve as mercenaries, an ironic order in which pirates themselves became formal protectors of maritime commerce. Like a great wave, our tale has carried us from the ancient Greek Isles through legendary Cilicia, bustling Carthage, the mysterious Red Sea, and finally to the distant waters of East Asia. We have witnessed an age when the sea truly belonged to the pirates, where power, wealth, and freedom mingled with the salt spray. Now close your eyes, imagine white sails rising and falling on the waves, and patiently await the next pages, where the adventures and myths of these pirates will begin to spread and leave their mark forever upon the currents of history. As the moonlight upon the sea begins to soften, yielding to the frail first rays of dawn, we prepare to conclude our voyage through piracy's origins and enter a turning point in history, when the legendary pirate fleets first began to ebb and dissolve. At their height, these corsairs seemed invincible. Yet history has its own way of restoring balance. The very empires once terrorized by pirates, Rome, Egypt, Carthage, and the dynasties of East Asia, now resolved to act decisively. They understood that to protect economic interests and maritime sovereignty, piracy could no longer be tolerated. In 67 BCE, a watershed moment occurred in the Mediterranean. The Roman Senate granted Pompey the great extraordinary powers to end the scourge of Cilician piracy once and for all. Pompey, a military genius, mobilized hundreds of warships and launched coordinated assaults on every pirate stronghold. In a matter of months, thousands of pirates were captured, their vessels burned or requisitioned, and Cilicia, the very name that had struck fear into merchants, was scrubbed from the map of ancient piracy. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the Ptolemaic rulers moved to crush the pirates harassing Alexandria and Memphis. Major ports were fortified, patrols intensified, and small pirate bands either retreated south or were absorbed into the royal forces as mercenaries. In the west, Carthage, once a merchant powerhouse, met its end in the Third Punic War, 146 BCE. With the city's destruction, its network of state-backed corsairs vanished alongside its harbour, leaving only memories of their former menace. In the Red Sea and Persian Gulf, burgeoning trade routes between Rome and India via Berenice and Myos Hormos prompted the Roman navy and the Himyarite fleet of Yemen to collaborate in sweeping away scattered pirate bands. Deprived of safe harbours, Red Sea pirates were forced into ever more remote waters to eke out a living. Farther east, China's Han and later Tang dynasties waged relentless campaigns against the Wokou raiders from the 1st to the 7th century CE. Coastal fortresses and naval patrols from Shandong to Fujian pressed the pirates into dissolution. Many turned to smuggling or fishing, and their exploits faded into folklore. Yet the fall of these early pirate empires was not abrupt. Small groups in Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean, Malay sea raiders in Cham and Javanese bands, continued on a reduced scale, exploiting gaps in local maritime governance. Even they, however, gradually yielded to mounting pressure from stronger state navies. Two key factors hastened piracy's decline. First, advances in shipbuilding and naval warfare, larger hulls, stone-throwing catapults and long-range weapons, diminished the effectiveness of the small, nimble pirate craft in head-to-head combat. Second, the codification of maritime law, Rome's Lex Gabinia and Tang China's sea codes, imposed stricter penalties and tightened port security, squeezing pirates out of the system. Ultimately, the demise of ancient piracy arose not only from military campaigns but from a shift in economic thinking. Empires realised that safeguarding maritime trade was the surest path to sustained prosperity, and so they invested heavily in safe harbours and patrol fleets to guarantee that crucial cargoes reached their destinations unmolested. Chapter 2: The Medieval Era. The Rise of the Viking Pirates. The sun had long since set, leaving only the moon's soft glow upon the sleeping ocean. In the night mist, history begins to open a new chapter. The medieval era, marked by the revival and dramatic transformation of piracy, most notably in the rise of the Northmen, the Vikings. From around the 8th century, across the seas of northern Europe, appeared long, slender ships that cut through the water like blades. Carved from sturdy oak and bearing dragon-headed prows, these long ships became the greatest symbol of Viking culture. Originally, farmers and fishermen on the frozen Scandinavian peninsulas, modern Norway, Denmark and Sweden, the Vikings faced population pressure and resource shortages at home. They turned to the sea not only to survive, but to assert their vigour and power. In their earliest voyages, they discovered the oceans offered not only sustenance, but limitless treasure. In 793, Europe was shaken by the raid on the monastery of Lindisfarne, off England's holy island. The monks there had known neither war nor piracy, until one gloomy June morning, strange ships appeared like lightning on the horizon. Tall warriors clad in leather armour, axes and swords in hand, swiftly destroyed everything and carried off gold and sacred relics. The attack on Lindisfarne terrorised locals and marked the beginning of the Viking Age, which would last for centuries. From that moment, the Viking name spread across European waters. Lightning fast, brutal raids struck from England's east coast through Ireland and Scotland, reaching as far as France and Spain. No coastal village or wealthy city, whether Nantes, Paris or London, was safe from these northern warriors. But the Vikings were more than mere raiders. Alongside violence, they showed astonishing acumen in trade and diplomacy. They established trading outposts in Ireland, Scotland, and along the Seine River, using these hubs to exchange both plundered goods and Nordic craftsmanship: furs, amber, ivory, and finely forged iron weapons. A key Viking achievement was their mastery of navigation. Lacking compasses or detailed charts, they relied on nature, the stars, the sun, and their acute observation of weather patterns and sea currents. This skill carried them farther than any other Europeans of the time, to Iceland, Greenland, and even the distant shores of North America, land they called Vinland. The most famous of these voyages was by Leif Erikson, who around the year 1000 became the first European to set foot on North America, nearly 5 centuries before Columbus's legendary voyage. Though the Vinland settlements did not endure, Eriksson's journey showcased the Vikings' extraordinary seamanship and vision. From the 9th to the 11th centuries, Viking activity expanded continuously. They not only raided, but founded permanent settlements in England's Danelaw, Normandy in France, and along Ireland's coasts. These bases supported commerce, weapon forging, shipbuilding, and vibrant Scandinavian communities. However, Viking expansion forced European kingdoms to unite against them. England, France, and the German states built professional armies, erected coastal castles, and fortified ports and watchtowers to repel Viking assaults. Gradually, these defences made raids more costly and less effective. By the 11th century, as Western European powers solidified, Viking sea raids began to wane. Many Vikings chose to integrate into local societies as farmers, merchants, or mercenaries. Others continued adventuring, but as explorers and traders, rather than the ferocious pirates of old. The Viking story in the first part of Chapter 2 offers us a unique window into the medieval era, a time of relentless warfare, but also of rich cultural exchange upon the seas. The emergence of the Vikings transformed our understanding of maritime exploration and opened an entirely new chapter in the history of world piracy. Now let the voice of history lull you to sleep. As your eyes grow heavy, imagine those long Viking ships gliding silently through the night like ghosts upon the endless ocean. We pause our journey here, awaiting the next saga of these sea warriors in the coming instalments of this epic pirate tale. As the Viking longships slowly faded from the waters of northern Europe, the bright sun and clear skies of the Mediterranean bore witness to a new, more powerful and enduring wave of piracy than any before. The rise of the Barbary corsairs, who terrorised the sea from the small ports of North Africa for centuries. From the late Middle Ages onward, the ports of Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Morocco emerged as new centres of maritime power. Cities like Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, and Salé quickly grew into pirate strongholds, trading in slaves and plundered goods from across the Mediterranean. These raiders became known as the Barbary pirates, named for the indigenous Berber lands of North Africa. Unlike the cold, swift Vikings, the Barbary pirates were renowned for their tight organisation and systematic approach. They were led by powerful chiefs, often titled Pasha or Bey, who ruled entire cities or even vast territories. These leaders built formidable fleets of warships, coordinating with precision and unmatched manoeuvrability. At first, their raids were local, striking vessels skirting North Africa's coast. But by the 16th century, the intervention of the Ottoman Empire changed everything. Conquering North Africa, the Ottomans recognised the Barbary corsairs as an effective force for controlling Mediterranean seas. They swiftly backed them with modern ships, advanced weaponry, and political protection. Under Ottoman patronage, ports like Algiers and Tunis became quasi-independent naval powers, profiting from plunder and tribute extracted from European states. Algiers, in particular, rose to be the strongest Barbary hub, launching large fleets equipped with cannons and manned by fierce crews. By the 17th century, Barbary piracy posed the gravest threat to European maritime trade. No merchantman dared traverse the Mediterranean without a strong escort, or without paying a hefty tribute. Captured sailors were sold into slavery in North Africa's crowded markets, forced to row galleys or labour under brutal conditions. What truly set the Barbary pirates apart was their willingness to confront the great naval powers head-on. Their corsair fleets could challenge the navies of Spain, England, France, and the Netherlands. On many occasions, European squadrons suffered bitter defeats at the hands of the Barbary captains' cunning and flexible tactics. The most famous leader of this era was Hayreddin Barbarossa. Barbarossa the Red. With his flaming beard and piercing gaze, he was both a fearsome pirate and a brilliant strategist. In the early 16th century, he turned Algiers into an impregnable pirate city, mounting daring raids on the coasts of Spain, Italy, Greece, and even France. Appointed admiral of the Ottoman fleet, Barbarossa elevated the Barbary pirates into a semi-official force that served Ottoman interests while enriching itself. Yet despite their might, the Barbary corsairs could not escape prolonged conflict with Europe. From the 17th century onward, fierce naval battles and lengthy sieges of North African ports became commonplace. European powers began to cooperate, launching successive military campaigns to destroy the major pirate bases. This sustained pressure gradually weakened the Barbary pirates. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Western nations, especially the United States and Britain, moved decisively to end the threat. The First Barbary War, 1801 to 1805, against Tripoli, and the Second Barbary War, 1815, culminating in Algiers' defeat, delivered crippling blows to the corsair fleets. The decline of the Barbary pirates marked a turning point in the history of piracy. They were the last to build a true pirate empire, with organised cities and powerful fleets. Their golden age finally ended, giving way to a new world governed by international agreements and stricter maritime laws. As the moonlight softens and our imagined vessel rocks gently on the waves, let yourself drift into sleep, carrying visions of that vibrant yet turbulent era. In the next part of Chapter 2, we will continue exploring the many faces of piracy on fresh seas and in fascinating new ages. But for now, let these tales fade into the night, guiding you into a peaceful, deep slumber. As the gentle breeze stirs the night sea, sending small waves rolling toward the horizon, we now turn eastward, where the medieval Haidao of Asia wrote their stories in faint yet richly mysterious pages of history. From the 9th to the 15th century, while Europe grappled with Vikings and Barbary corsairs, Asian waters experienced their own pirate resurgence. Bands of raiders from East and Southeast Asia. This was an era of booming maritime trade, and pirate fleets prowled the seas from Japan and China to Korea and the vibrant archipelagos of Southeast Asia. In the waters off China and Japan, the pirate bands known as the wokou, literally dwarf pirates, first emerged. Initially composed of Japanese sailors in small, nimble vessels, they struck swift, surprise raids on Chinese and Korean merchantmen and even small coastal ports, then vanished into secret island hideouts before local forces could respond. By the 13th century, under the Mongol-ruled Yuan dynasty, China's sea lanes were more open than ever, fueling a boom in piracy. Prosperous East Asian trade routes attracted larger, more organised pirate bands that wielded significant economic and political clout. During the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644, the wokou reached their peak. Along China's eastern seaboard, from Shandong and Zhejiang down to Fujian, raiders struck repeatedly, inflicting heavy economic and security losses. At their height in the 16th century, some wokou fleets numbered hundreds of ships with thousands of sailors conducting raids and even occupying coastal towns. Notably, from the 16th century onward, the wokou ranks swelled with disaffected Chinese under the Ming court, illicit merchants and wandering adventurers. These disparate groups formed a complex alliance, driven not only by plunder, but also by smuggling lucrative commodities, silver, silk, tea, creating a powerful underground economy along the East Asian coast. In Korea too, Japanese and Chinese pirate bands wrought havoc. The Joseon Annals, 1392-1897, record relentless wokou attacks on Korea's southern shores. The court repeatedly mobilised forces and built coastal fortresses to counter this threat. But the wokou were not Asia's sole sea raiders. From the 10th to the 15th centuries in Southeast Asia, Malay, Javanese and Cham pirates also flourished. With thousands of islands and narrow straits, like Malacca to conceal them, they ambushed Chinese, Indian and Arab merchant fleets, carrying spices, silk and fine ceramics. The Strait of Malacca, linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans, remained a piracy hotspot for centuries. Southeast Asian corsairs, in small, swift craft, lay in wait in sheltered bays to prey on larger, slower merchantmen. They plundered cargoes or kidnapped crews for ransom, enriching themselves and their local patrons. Indeed, some regional powers, Srivijaya and Majapahit in Java, or Champa in what is now Vietnam, even employed pirate bands as unofficial naval forces, using their raiding prowess to pressure commercial rivals. Yet, as in Europe, the expansion of Asian piracy eventually spurred decisive action by local states. From the 16th century, the Ming, Japanese shogunate, and Joseon dynasty all beefed up navies, constructed coastal fortresses, and tightened controls over sea lanes. China's Ming General Qi Jiguang led major campaigns that destroyed or dispersed thousands of pirates. In Southeast Asia, the arrival of European powers, Portugal, the Netherlands and Spain, from the 16th century further altered the balance. These newcomers seized strategic ports and deployed modern navies to crush local pirate bands, driving Southeast Asian piracy into decline. By the close of the medieval era, as the first glimmers of the early modern world appeared, Asia's pirate fleets had dwindled markedly. Some former raiders turned to legitimate trade. Others vanished from the records, leaving only legendary tales in folk memory. Let these vivid, turbulent images fade with the night tide, giving way to the peace of deep slumber. Our exploration of piracy's history will resume another day, but for now let the gentle waves lull you into restful sleep. Chapter 3. The Age of Discovery. When the world was opened, the gentle night softly envelops the vast sea, carrying us deeper into the currents of history and into a dazzling yet tumultuous new era, the Age of Discovery. As humankind boldly pushed out across distant oceans in search of new lands, so too did the silhouettes of pirate ships reappear, seizing the opportunity offered by the era's brilliant light to strike from the shadows. In the late 15th and early 16th centuries, European powers, Portugal, Spain, England, the Netherlands and France, embarked on ambitious ocean voyages, driven not only by the desire to expand their empires and trade networks, but also to seek new resources and establish sea routes to wealthy Asia. It was against this backdrop that new maritime highways opened, across the Atlantic to the Caribbean, down the coasts of South America, into the Indian Ocean, and onward to the far-flung islands of the Pacific. Yet as heavily laden galleons glided upon the waves, brimming with gold, spices, silks and other precious cargo, pirates once more found their moment to flourish. The Age of Discovery did not only write triumphant chapters for great empires, it also became the richest, most vivid epoch in pirate history. Let us begin Chapter 3 in the cobalt waters of the Caribbean, henceforth known among marauders as the Golden Sea of the Pirates. From the 16th century onward, this region became ground zero for piracy, luring adventurers from all over Europe, eager to seize Spanish and Portuguese treasure fleets returning from the New World. Shortly after Columbus's first landfall, in 1492, Spain established wealthy colonies throughout the Caribbean and South America. Each year, convoys laden with gold, gems, sugar, coffee and tobacco would brave the Atlantic to Spain. These lucrative convoys became irresistible targets for pirates hungry for a quick fortune. During this era, many European states, most notably England and France, employed loose bands of sea robbers to harass their Spanish rivals. This gave rise to the concept of the privateer, a state-sanctioned pirate licensed to attack enemy shipping in the name of national interest. One of the first and most famous privateers was Sir Francis Drake of England. With secret backing from Queen Elizabeth I, Drake launched daring raids against Spanish vessels, most famously during his circumnavigation from 1577 to 1580. In the Pacific, he seized vast quantities of treasure from Spanish ships, returning home to England a hero, laden with riches, and becoming the first Englishman to sail around the globe. In the Caribbean itself, pirate havens sprang up on islands like Tortuga, Hispaniola, today Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and Nassau in the Bahamas. Here buccaneers built makeshift towns and ports, venues for raucous celebrations, the fair division of loot, and preparation for fresh attacks. These pirate republics even developed their own codes and democratic assemblies to split spoils equitably. Notable early Caribbean pirates included Francois Leclerc of France, John Hawkins of England, and the legendary Sir Henry Morgan. Morgan's audacious sack of Panama City in 1671, plundering immense wealth and inflicting severe damage on the Spanish crown, cemented his fearsome reputation. Over time, however, the line between privateer and pirate blurred. As peace returned between European states, these once legal marauders became uncontrollable threats to all nations. By the late 17th and early 18th centuries, governments turned on their former allies, hunting down and punishing those who had once sailed under royal commissions. The pirate stories of the Age of Discovery are not merely tales of treasure and opulent spoils, but reflections of an age rife with contradiction, when the ambitions of great empires collided with the ravenous greed of lone souls on the high seas. Now, as the night deepens and the ocean's lullaby draws you towards sleep, let your mind drift to the distant Caribbean waters. Picture the proud galleon slipping through a misty horizon, where history and legend merge, and prepare yourself for the next enthralling chapters yet to come. Sleep peacefully and await tomorrow's dawn, when new adventures in the grand saga of piracy will once again unfurl. In the tranquil darkness of the ocean, gentle waves lull us ever deeper into sleep. Yet behind this calm, the most captivating pages of Caribbean piracy continue to unfold. Now let us return to the 17th and 18th centuries, the era known as the Golden Age of Caribbean piracy. The 17th century opened a new, turbulent chapter in the Caribbean, as European powers, England, France, the Netherlands and Spain, established colonies throughout these waters. The convoys of merchant ships brimming with gold and precious cargo multiplied. In their wake rose ever more formidable pirate bands, some operating alone, others organised into entire squadrons, transforming the Caribbean into a vibrant maritime battleground. From the early 1650s onward, the island of Tortuga, off northern Hispaniola, swiftly became a pirate's paradise. Its small ports swelled with buccaneers, whose only laws were strength, courage, and combat skill. Tortuga buzzed with raucous taverns and ramshackle wooden huts where pirates gathered to divide loot, recount glorious battles, and plan their next raids. It was on Tortuga that a new generation of pirate legends emerged. Names like Henry Morgan, Edward Teach, the fearsome Blackbeard, Bartholomew Roberts, Charles Vane, and the notorious Anne Bonny. These figures amassed vast fortunes through bold plundering and left an indelible mark on popular culture and the imaginations of millions. Let us begin with Henry Morgan, arguably the greatest legend of this period. A bold Welshman, Morgan made his name with decisive raids on wealthy Spanish strongholds in the Caribbean, including Portobello, Maracaibo, and most notably Panama in 1671. At Panama, Morgan led nearly 2,000 pirates through dense jungle, defeated the Spanish defences, sacked the richest city in Spain's New World Empire, and set it ablaze. This astonishing victory propelled him to immense wealth and earned him hero's honours back in England, even as he remained a terrifying scourge to the Spanish. Beside Morgan stood Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. At the dawn of the 18th century, Blackbeard cut an unforgettable figure. Long black beard, piercing glare, and a terrifying battle style. He famously wove slow-burning fuses into his beard, so that smoke and eerie sparks billowed around his face during combat, terrifying enemies into surrender. In his brief but remarkable career, Blackbeard sowed fear from the Bahamas to the North Carolina coast aboard his notorious ship, Queen Anne's Revenge, becoming the very emblem of piracy. Contemporary with these two was another legend, Bartholomew Roberts, perhaps the most successful pirate in history, capturing more than 400 merchant vessels. Roberts was celebrated not only for his tactical brilliance, but also for enforcing a strict shipboard code. Loot was divided fairly, and democratic principles guided decision-making among his crew. The 18th century also saw the rise of female pirate icons like Anne Bonny and Mary Read. Defying all conventions, these women fought fiercely alongside men in bloody engagements, earning undying fame in pirate lore. Anne Bonny in particular was renowned for her ferocity, always charging into battle with sword in hand, the very model of fearless female buccaneer. Yet the dazzling golden age of Caribbean piracy could not last forever. By the early 1700s, European powers moved decisively to end the lawlessness of the pirates. A wave of military campaigns and draconian crackdowns, led chiefly by the British Royal Navy, rapidly eroded pirate strength. Pirate havens like Nassau and Tortuga fell, and many famed captains were slain or publicly executed as warnings to others. By around 1720, the Golden Age had clearly waned. Those once feared names faded into memory, becoming the stuff of seaside tavern tales and enduring folk legends passed down through generations. Now, as the sails of history draw to a close and the gentle sea waves rock you toward deep slumber, let these radiant legends dissolve into the night. Sleep soundly, because in the next part of Chapter 3, we will explore the final remnants of Caribbean piracy before a new era rises and pens fresh tales upon the eternal ocean. As the night sky drapes gently over the vast sea, the ocean lies so still it seems to drift into a deep slumber. The waves now only whisper against the white sands, telling us of the final days of the golden age of Caribbean piracy. It is the dusk of an era, and the last chapters of these sea legends quietly draw to a close. After years of brilliance, the early 18th century witnessed a dramatic decline in Caribbean piracy. Once the scourge of the seas, the pirates now faced relentless pursuit by Europe's great powers, above all, the Royal Navy of Britain. Free ports like Tortuga and Nassau fell one by one to official control or were utterly destroyed. Recognising the threat to international trade, the British government launched unprecedented anti-piracy campaigns. Powerful warships hunted pirate bands without respite. In 1718, Britain appointed Woodes Rogers, a resolute, battle-hardened former naval captain, as governor of the Bahamas, tasking him with eradicating piracy from these waters. Rogers acted swiftly. Upon arriving in Nassau, he offered a proclamation of amnesty. Pirates who surrendered their arms and renounced lawlessness would be pardoned. Many chose to accept, laying down their weapons and returning to civilian life under Rogers' strict oversight. Yet notorious figures like Blackbeard and Charles Vane refused, fighting on to the bitter end. In 1718, Edward Teach, Blackbeard, faced his final battle off Ocracoke, North Carolina. A Royal Navy detachment under Lieutenant Robert Maynard cornered and fiercely engaged his ship. After hours of brutal combat, Blackbeard fell, pierced by more than 20 wounds, a tragic finale for one of the Caribbean's greatest legends. Blackbeard's death sent shockwaves through pirate ranks, shattering their morale. Soon after, in 1720, Bartholomew Roberts, one of the most successful pirates ever, was killed in a naval engagement off the coast of West Africa. Roberts had seemed invincible, and his fall tore away the myth of pirate indomitability. That same year, Charles Vane, renowned for his ruthless brutality, was captured and publicly hanged in Port Royal, Jamaica. The sight of Vane swinging from the gallows before thousands served as a stark warning to any who still harboured dreams of piracy. The surviving pirates, sensing the end of their age, retreated to remote hideouts, living in obscurity or joining small bands no longer capable of significant threat. In 1722, a famed trial in Jamaica brought the legendary female pirates Anne Bonny and Mary Read before the court. Mary Read perished in prison from illness, while Anne Bonny vanished mysteriously after securing her pardon, her disappearance only deepening the mystique of women who defied pirate conventions. By mid-18th century, Caribbean piracy was but a fading shadow. European powers tightened control over sea lanes. Advances in naval technology and modern warships made pirate attacks increasingly perilous. Once boisterous pirate ports transformed into naval bases and thriving commercial towns. Finally, by the century's close, the era of Caribbean piracy ended for good. One of humanity's most vivid and captivating historical chapters drew to a close. Henceforth, tales of buried treasure, phantom ships, and fearsome figures like Blackbeard and Henry Morgan would live on only in literature, film, and popular legend. Now, as night deepens and the thrilling stories of the pirates yield to the tranquil peace of sleep. Let the waves continue their gentle lullaby. In your dreams, you may glimpse those ancient sailing ships gliding through darkness, bearing secrets of untold treasure and legends yet to be revealed. Sleep well, for in the next chapter, when dawn breaks, we will continue our journey to new horizons, where pirate history enters a wholly new era, the age of daring expeditions across every ocean, farther and wider than humanity ever imagined. Chapter 4: The Age of Indian Ocean Piracy. Adventurers on the Eastern Seas. In the gentle moonlight that spreads across the calm sea, our journey continues eastward to the far-off waters, where pirate tales are told beneath the twinkling stars of one of the world's vastest and most mysterious oceans, the Indian Ocean. As the Caribbean's pirate age quietly drew to a close, a new chapter was being written in the East. From the 16th century onward, the Indian Ocean became a crossroads of the world's busiest trade routes, linking Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Here cultures mingled and precious goods flowed, spices, silks, gold, and gemstones. And it was here that new pirate bands rose to seize the enormous profits carried by merchant fleets coursing day and night across these waters. Unlike the bold, brash pirates of the Caribbean, Indian Ocean corsairs operated more discreetly, mysterious yet no less fearsome. They included Arab sailors, Malay, Javanese, Indian seafarers, and even adventurers from distant Europe, all drawn to a maritime realm both alluring and perilous. In the early days of this era, the Arabian Sea, connecting the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf, quickly became a piracy hotspot. Arab pirates based in small ports along Oman, Yemen, and the western Indian coast organised into small but highly effective groups. Their light, nimble vessels lay in ambush in narrow bays and channels, striking spice and silk-laden merchantmen bound from the Gulf to India, then slipping away before local forces could muster. Farther south, Madagascar emerged in the 17th and 18th centuries as a crucial pirate haven. Its remote, rugged shores sat astride the key sea lanes between Europe and Asia, offering shelter, repair facilities, markets for booty, and rest for crews after dangerous voyages. Among the most notorious Madagascar-based pirates was Henry Every, one of history's most successful and enigmatic corsairs. In 1695, Every and his crew attacked the Ganges Sawai, a richly laden Mughal treasure ship bound from India to Mecca under heavy escort. The daring raid brought Every such vast spoils that he was hailed as the king of pirates. Then, having seized his loot, he vanished completely, leaving the fate of his treasure one of history's great mysteries. Meanwhile, in Southeast Asian waters, pirate activity surged around the Strait of Malacca, one of the world's busiest maritime choke points linking the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Malay, Javanese, Bugis, and Assamese corsairs used small, swift craft to ambush Chinese, Indian, Dutch, and British merchantmen. Their intimate knowledge of islands, reefs, and hidden channels made the strait especially treacherous. So infamous did Malacca become that by the 17th century, many European captains even hired local pirates as convoy escorts. An extraordinary instance of corsairs turned bodyguards for the very ships they once preyed upon. In southern India, ports such as Calicut, Goa, and Surat fell under repeated assault by European privateers, Dutch, Portuguese, and later English, who vied fiercely for regional trade dominance. At times, they even briefly occupied coastal towns to seize goods and secure footholds. Yet despite their prowess, Indian Ocean pirates faced formidable opponents. They never enjoyed the spacious hideaways of the Caribbean. Instead, they contended with crackdowns by powerful states, the Mughal Empire in India, the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East, and increasingly capable European navies. As the 18th century waned, pirate activity in the Indian Ocean declined. Britain and the Netherlands reinforced control of vital sea lanes, patrolling them with strong warships. With safe havens disappearing, corsairs retreated to more distant waters, or shifted to smaller-scale crimes like smuggling and whaleboat raids. Now, as the night's gentle waves lull you towards sleep, let these eastern pirate tales drift softly into your memory. Though you may slumber deeply, remember, our voyage is not yet over. In the chapters ahead, we will continue to explore new horizons and hear the stories of those daring souls who roamed the world's oceans. Sleep well, listen to the sea's soothing murmur, and let the legends of Indian Ocean piracy guide you into peaceful dreams. While the moon still gently gleams upon the calm sea, our imagined vessel carries us onward into the quiet, yet mysterious waters of the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf. Here, history has woven hushed yet powerful pirate tales, Eastern legends whispered beneath endless starry skies. From the 16th through the 18th centuries, the Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea formed the vital arteries linking India's wealthy ports to the Arab world and Europe. Here, bustling convoys bore fiery spices, priceless pearls, silks and brocades. And it was these riches that lured bold adventurers, pirate bands of Arab, Persian, and even distant European origin, to prey upon the merchantmen gliding constantly through these straits. In the early days, pirates based themselves in small coastal towns of Oman, Yemen, and Bahrain. They sailed light, swift dhows with triangular lateen sails, vessels just nimble enough to slip into narrow inlets, yet fast enough to overtake the lumbering treasure ships. These dhows became ominous icons of the Arabian Sea, not merely as trading vessels, but as harbingers of the unknown buccaneers. One of the busiest ambush points lay at the Strait of Hormuz, the critical gateway between the Gulf and the Arabian Sea. Here, the richly laden merchant convoys of the Persian Empire, Portugal, and later Britain were repeatedly waylaid. By the early 17th century, pirate activity had grown so rampant that many captains hired specialised mercenary guards simply to survive the passage. Among all the Persian Gulf corsairs, none loomed larger than Rahma ibn Jabir al-Jalahima, perhaps history's most legendary pirate lord in these waters. Born in late 18th century Bahrain, Rahma rose to fame through daring raids on pearl fleets and the capture of powerful warships from neighbouring states. He struck terror into both British and Ottoman authorities, commanding his fleet from a stronghold on the Qatari Peninsula, granting him near total control of Gulf trade. Rahma's feared visage, a single eye concealed by a black scarf, came to symbolise his fierce reputation. Having lost an eye in battle, he wore the eye patch as both armour and emblem, inspiring countless Bedouin and seafaring legends across the Gulf shores. Alongside Rahma, smaller pirate crews thrived along the coasts of Yemen and Oman. They not only plundered passing merchantmen, but seized wealthy hostages for ransom, building a covert economy that enriched coastal villages through brisk trade with complicit local merchants. A further twist in Gulf piracy lay in its shifting loyalties. At times, these corsairs were even hired by petty sheikhs to wage maritime guerrilla warfare against greater powers such as the Ottomans or encroaching European empires. This tangled web of alliances made any effort to suppress piracy here incredibly complex. Yet by the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the tides began to turn. Britain, eager to secure its sea, lanes to India, bolstered its naval presence in the Gulf. Relentless anti-piracy campaigns mounted in the early 1800s saw British warships besiege and destroy pirate bases across Oman, Qatar, and Bahrain. The Ottoman authorities likewise tightened their grip on key ports, leaving the pirates fewer and fewer sanctuaries. In 1826, amid a fierce naval engagement, Rahma ibn Jabir al-Jalahima, this final defiant legend of the Persian Gulf, chose to detonate his own ship rather than surrender to the combined Ottoman and British forces. His dramatic end marked the final curtain on a proud era of Gulf piracy. From that day forward, these waters grew steadily more peaceful. Merchant convoys passed unmolested, yet the legends of those shadowy raiders endured, woven forever into the rich cultural tapestry of the eastern seas. Now let these stories slowly fade into your slumber, mingling with the gentle lap of moonlit waves. Our voyage is far from over, but for now, allow sleep to carry you to a place of serene calm, where dreams are spun from the memory of a legendary age of piracy in these distant, mysterious waters. As the deep night sky blankets the ocean, the waves continue to whisper the final tales of the pirates who once ruled the vast and mysterious Indian Ocean. This is the moment when dusk falls, gently closing the era of those brave adventurers before their stories fade into history's dim pages. At the dawn of the 19th century, the dominance of the European powers in the Indian Ocean became overwhelming. The English, Dutch and French swiftly solidified their positions by building a network of naval bases along the key trade routes. The British Royal Navy, in particular, launched some of the most relentless anti-piracy campaigns in history, systematically uprooting pirate enclaves and driving their spectres from these wide waters. Madagascar's corsairs, once mighty and wealthy thanks to their island strongholds at Ile Sainte-Marie and Nosy Boraha, now witnessed their bastions fall one by one. British warships repeatedly struck these bases, forcing pirate bands to scatter into more remote seas or slip quietly into local communities, trading their cutlasses for anonymity and peace. In the Strait of Malacca, the Malay and Javanese pirates who once struck fear into every merchantman gradually found themselves crushed by stringent Dutch and British colonial rule. From the early 1800s onward, modern warships patrolled the strait, and rigorous coastal policing made successful raids nearly impossible. The remaining pirate crews could only eke out a precarious existence in hidden coves, eking out a harsh livelihood far from the busy lanes they once haunted. Meanwhile, in the Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf, empires such as the Ottomans, Persians and British formed powerful alliances to impose order and control. The final campaigns against small pirate groups in Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, and Yemen were carried out with sharp efficiency, leaving these waters virtually free of buccaneers. By the mid-19th century, the Indian Ocean enjoyed an unprecedented peace. International trade routes were safer and more efficient than ever. The once feared pirates survived only as distant phantoms in local memory or as campfire legends by lantern-lit harbours. Yet their disappearance owed as much to technological progress as to naval might. As steamships, faster, more powerful, and equipped with modern cannons, began to replace wooden sailing vessels, the small, fragile craft of the pirates became hopelessly outmatched on the open sea. In 1830, the last pirate bands of the Malacca Strait formally surrendered to British and Dutch authorities, handing over their arms in exchange for clemency and a peaceful life under colonial rule. Likewise, by the mid-1800s, Ile Sainte-Marie in Madagascar, once the greatest pirate hub, had shrunk to a quiet fishing and farming community. By the late 19th century, the advent of international maritime law and ever tighter colonial policing had extinguished any remaining opportunities for piracy. The corsair, fleets that once dominated the oceans, existed now only in memory, and the Indian Ocean returned to its serene state, the gentle roll of waves soothing away even the last restless spirits of the adventurers who once roamed its waters. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let your mind hold these final images of a bygone age, a time of enigmatic pirates, strange adventures, and wondrous legends that spanned the great seas. History will continue onward, guiding us to new chapters and new waters. But for now, sleep well, and let the whispered tales of Indian Ocean piracy lull you into the soft embrace of night. Chapter 5. Late 19th century. When the rising tide recedes, old ghosts re-emerge. A faint dawnlight brushes the horizon, casting a pale gold across the vast ocean, an omen of a subtle shift in pirate history. After the relentless European crackdowns of the 19th century, it seemed piracy had been cleansed from the seas. Yet just as steamships quietly supplanted wooden sails, echoes of the old corsairs still sounded from hidden inlets, treacherous straits, and obscure ports, places where colonial power remained imperfect and international law offered loopholes. South China Sea outlaws. In China, once home to the mighty Ming, now under Qing rule with strict maritime laws, pirates still roamed the South China Sea. From Guangdong and Guangxi down to Hainan Island, mid-19th century crews drew from displaced Ming naval sailors, overtaxed labourers, and smugglers of silver, tea and opium. Among them rose Chung Po Tsai, a young but ruthless leader. His swift junk, the Red Raider, flew the skull and crossbones flag, haunting merchants in Macau and the joint Anglo-Chinese naval patrols alike, Malay and Bugis bands in the Riau archipelago. To the south, Malay, Achinese, and Bugis pirate clans still lurked around the Strait of Malacca and the Riau Islands. After the 1824 Treaty of London and the 1826 Treaty of Camden cemented Dutch and British dominance, colonial patrols intensified, seizing vessels and prosecuting illegal traders. Yet the locals adapted, morphing into clandestine spice and opium smugglers who lay in wait for passing ships, then vanished into the labyrinth of mangrove-lined islets beyond imperial reach. European phantom raiders. Back in European waters, even after Caribbean piracy's demise, the 19th century sails were less gleaming but still vulnerable. Old, coal-burning schooners departing Prussia, with migrants or Scottish coasters laden with ore, sometimes disappeared without a trace. Fishermen in Brittany, Cornwall, and Scandinavia whispered of ghostly raiders, long-coated, masked figures, who ambushed steam convoys under cover of night, only to melt away into the fog. Singapore's underworld. At Singapore's bustling Chinatown, under British rule, shadows slipped along the docks at dusk, displaced Royal Navy stokers and sailors now destitute donned civilian clothes to pilot sampans carrying illicit cargo, small arms, opium and silver. Although the Strait Settlements police enforced draconian customs laws, the rhythm of oar blades on the river at night reminded all that the sea's secrets still ran deep. Pacific guano raiders. Across in Latin America, after Caribbean piracy ended, small brigands reappeared off the Pacific coast. Newly independent Chile and Peru fielded nascent navies ill-prepared to patrol the white-gold guano routes. Former Spanish veterans and opportunists staged ambushes around Baja California's offshore isles, smuggling repacked guano to secluded warehouses behind locked gates, the advent of modern piracy. In this era, a new breed of pirate harnessed telegraphs and ciphered island outposts. They employed steam launches as dispatch boats to relay ambush schedules. The US War Department and the British Admiralty even formed anti-piracy telegraph corps, working with navies and colonial police to detect telltale steam plumes and track vessels' transmission schedules. With traditional sails fading, turn-of-the-century pirates evolved, from armed marauders to smugglers, from bloodthirsty raiders to fixers in the opium and arms trade. Yet through every transformation, the cadence of history's piracy endured, the roll of waves, the tang of salt, and the silhouette of a lone ship slipping through the darkness. Thus closes the first part of Chapter 5, between the whispering surf and soft dawn. Let your breath fall in time with the ocean's rhythm, and let your mind heed the quiet, yet fierce resurgence of modern pirates. Night wanes, and soon we will embark on a new chapter, where steam, telegraph, and hidden networks will continue the age-old saga of adventure upon the high seas. The dawn light grows ever brighter, mingling with the salty breath of the sea as it lifts the veil of mist from the silent harbours. We now sail through the turbulent currents of the 20th century, between two devastating world wars, when the ocean's pirates reappear in new guises, free-spirited, cunning, and utterly unpredictable. The Gulf of Mexico and the US West Coast. During America's Great Depression of the 1930s, Many small Gulf Coast ports became havens for rum-running vessels. Under the cryptic banner Night Crystal, these Prohibition-era pirates raced high-speed steamers through the fog from Cuba into New Orleans and New York, then scattered eastward across the eastern seaboard. Shipboard radio transmitters flashed yellow-green to signal safe passage, or red-black when the Coast Guard was in pursuit. Whenever the rum-running vessels heard the distant roar of patrol engines, they cut their radios and ghosted silently into the night, resuming their runs only after darkness fell. Post-World War I. Mediterranean. After 1918, the Mediterranean remained far from peaceful. Disillusioned, unemployed veterans gathered aboard decrepit merchant ships anchored off Crete, Sicily, and the Greek Isles. Calling themselves the Black Sea Battalion, they used their veteran status as cover to smuggle arms, medicine, and even ammunition to insurgent militias in Turkey and Yugoslavia. These ships were equipped with veteran-era Marconi transmitters and relied on aged shortwave radios, paper charts stained with salt, and hand-flashed Morse code from signal lamps when creeping close to shore. Far East waters at war. In the Far East, as Japan occupied China's coastal regions from the 1930s onward, local pirate gangs both resisted imperial forces and exploited wartime chaos to traffic rice, opium, and gold into Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Manila. Organised into small flotillas of outboard-powered sampans, they even carried pocket satellite audience phones to coordinate among themselves. Meanwhile, many sailors from China's nationalist navy turned to semi-official piracy, plying the Yangtze River and South China Sea in search of profit. West Africa and the post-war Atlantic. Following Europe's reconstruction after 1945, numerous small wooden freighters, once carrying fish, minerals, and oil off the West African coast, were laid up, and then reactivated by the unemployed. Calling themselves the Black Fleet, they poached fish and smuggled diesel fuel to cement factories in South America. They preferred secret anchorages in the Cape Verde and Azores archipelagos, transshipping cargoes onto larger vessels to evade naval radar. Radar technology and survival rates. As maritime radar and global vessel tracking systems improved, the oceans grew ever harder for pirates to slip through. Yet they adapted quickly, installing spoofed AIS, automatic identification system, transponders to mislead coastal stations, or deploying unmanned aerial drones to parachute supplies at midday. Such tactics created a new breed of smart pirates who relied not merely on speed, but on cutting-edge technology to survive. And so, as night falls on this vibrant chapter of modern piracy, the sea lies silent once more, save for the whisper of wind and the hum of engines, reminding us that, no matter how its face may change, the spirit of adventure and lawlessness still stirs among those who roam the endless waves. Let the ocean's lullaby carry you to sleep, and prepare for the next chapter, where the Cold War and globalization give rise to the cyber pirates, drifting through even deadlier currents. As the 20th century drew to a close, and the ocean seemed tamed of all adventurers, the very dawn of the 21st century saw the pirate spectre rise again. No longer wooden rum runners, longships or dhows, but massive oil tankers, container ships, and sometimes nothing more than high-powered speedboats. This is the new era of the global pirate, stalking every strategic sea lane. The Gulf of Aden, the Gulf of Guinea, the Strait of Malacca, and beyond. Somalia, land of the pirate kingdom. In the mid-2000s, following the collapse of Somalia's central government, its 3,000-kilometre coastline became a playground for armed gangs. They ambushed foreign merchant vessels and held them for multi-million-dollar ransoms. Cargo ships, tankers laden with crude, you name it. Small skiffs, each powered by 2 or 3 208p Yamaha outboards, would sprint out from hidden coves, tie alongside a mothership, then swarm the deck before the crew knew what hit them. The ensuing hostage drama, intense SATCOM negotiations, and video calls forced an international naval response, EU, NAVFOR, NATO, US Navy, to deploy anti-piracy task forces in a bid to restore safe passage. Gulf of Guinea, the Black Diamond Ring. Along West Africa's coast from Nigeria to Guinea, organised crime morphed into large-scale attacks on oil tankers, mineral carriers, and even container ships. While vessels idled offshore awaiting berth, pirates would stealthily approach in unmarked boats, drill into hulls, insert hoses into fuel tanks, and siphon off hundreds of tons of diesel or heavy fuel oil. They also kidnapped crew for ransom, creating a black diamond ring that exposed corruption, lax customs, and weak security throughout the region. Strait of Malacca, the impregnable zone. Despite tight joint patrols by Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore during the 1990s-2000s, petty piracy resurged by the late 2010s under economic strain. Squid boats and luxury yachts were still ambushed, outboard engines and GPS units stolen. Then the assailants vanished into mangrove swamps and narrow canals. Modern Malacca pirates use spoofed GSM phones, falsified GPS to manipulate AIS, and leave deliberately misleading digital footprints on electronic charts. Technology and the anti-piracy fight. Today's fight against piracy goes beyond warships and naval bases. Authorities deploy X-band radar, real-time AIS monitoring networks, long-range UAV reconnaissance, and even K-band satellites to detect the small skiffs. Merchant vessels equip high-pressure water cannons along their hulls, deploy razor-wire barriers, and train crews to shelter in citadels, airtight safe rooms bolted shut until naval assistance arrives. Maritime law and international cooperation. The 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, the SUA Protocol Against Unlawful Acts, and regional multilateral patrol frameworks, RICAP in Asia, the Yaoundé Code in West Africa, provide the legal and operational backbone for information sharing. The ICC IMB Piracy Reporting Centre in Singapore logs hundreds of incidents each year, enabling global maritime authorities to coordinate more effectively. Pirate stories, across time, whether it's a Somali gunman with an AK-47 storming a deck, a Nigerian thief drilling a tanker hull, or a Malaccan imposter posing as maritime official, all share the same dogged will: survive beyond the law. They represent the final evolution of piracy, from romantic blade and cutlass adventurers to hard-edged survivalists armed with 21st century tools. And as night falls on this colourful chapter of modern piracy, the ocean lies silent once more, save for radar alerts, radio crackles, and the glare of searchlights cutting through the dark. But no matter how piracy's face has changed, the sea still carries the echoes of waves, of salt, and of ships that slip unseen through the night, reviving the indomitable, free, and mysterious spirit of the pirate. Let the sound of the waves lull you into deep sleep, knowing that the ocean still holds countless secrets, and that at any moment, a lone figure on a vessel's deck may yet bring that timeless spirit back to life. Chapter 6. Legacy and Legend. When pirate figures reach the masses, the vast night sky, stretched like a black velvet tapestry, now bears no sight of wooden ships or billowing sails. Instead, millions of pages of books, films, video games, and even adventure tours have extended the footsteps of pirates across space and time. In the first part of Chapter 6, we will listen to the story of the legacy and legends that these ocean wanderers have left for the modern world. As early as the late 18th century, when the golden age of piracy finally closed, people began retelling their adventures in short tales. European literary critics passed around Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe, 1719. Though not a pirate story, its spirit of survival and bond with the sea evoked life aboard ship. Next came Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, 1883, bringing Blackbeard and Long John Silver to vibrant life on the page. From that moment on, the image of a treasure map marked with an X, and the mysterious compass became unforgettable symbols of the pirate world. Moving into the 20th century, cinema fanned the flames of that fascination. Films like Captain Blood, 1935, The Seahawk, 1940, and The Crimson Pirate, 1952, portrayed pirates from heroic to bizarre. And by the 2000s, the Pirates of the Caribbean series, 2003-2017, elevated Jack Sparrow to glamorous heights. His swaggering gait, mischievous grin, and tricorn hat became the very emblem of the cheeky, death-defying pirate, enthralling hundreds of millions of young fans. It wasn't just books and films. Music helped stir the sea spirit too. From the Pogues' rousing Sally McLenane to the traditional English folk tune Drunken Sailor, the pounding of drums and the lively mandolin evoked the atmosphere of a coastal tavern where pirates swap tales late into the night. At Caribbean Carnival, costumed revellers sway to reggae and calypso in pirate guise, stepping into the role of rule breakers for a night. On the open seas, pirate tourism has flourished. From Viking longship replicas in Oslo Fjord to Caribbean cruise ships staging rum feasts and sword-fighting demonstrations on deck, travellers immerse themselves in pirate lore. In Jamaica's submerged city of Port Royal, guided tours wind through cobbled streets sunken by the 1692 earthquake. Stories of wrecked galleons and sunken treasure chests awaken once more. In video games and board games, pirates live on interactively. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag lets players become Edward Kenway, roaming the Caribbean in search of loot and gunfights. Board games like Merchants and Marauders and Jamaica cast players as captains, choosing tribute or plunder and feeling every adrenaline-fueled moment. These hands-on experiences prolong the legend, letting us not just hear the tales but hoist the Jolly Roger and face danger at our screens or tabletops. A less noticed legacy is language itself, hundreds of idioms to walk the plank. Scarlet letter have permeated everyday English, often without speakers knowing their pirate origins. In Vietnamese, simple terms like Quoc Bien, pirate, or Ang Gu Ong Kup Lung, fishermen turned raiders, still hint at the pirate's shadow in common speech. But most importantly, the pirate legacy is the spirit of freedom, daring to live beyond the law, to carve out a life on one's own terms, despite peril at every turn. In the 21st century, when the world seems bound by regulations, surveillance, and screens, the image of a lone figure adrift on the waves reminds us of our yearning to break the glass and live fully in every breath. And now, as darkness deepens, let the sea's soft roar lull your mind. Let the pages that still smell of fresh paper, the film frames still aglow, and the harbour songs that linger in your heart carry you off into dreams. When the city lights have all but faded, leaving only the gentle rhythm of rolling waves, we continue to follow the footsteps of pirates in part 2 of chapter 6, where shipwrecks and ancient relics carry a tragic melody, preserved and vividly painting a picture of a bygone era. Shipwrecks, legends beneath the waves. Over the centuries, hundreds of merchantmen and pirate vessels have been claimed by the sea, resting among vibrant corals and darting schools of fish. From the Caribbean to Northern Europe, from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean, each wreck is an archaeological treasure trove. Consider the Nuestra Señora de Atocha, whose sunken hold still yields millions of dollars worth of silver and gold. Or the Wider Galley, flagship of Captain Samuel Black Sam Bellamy, lying just off Massachusetts's coast, where divers quietly unearth Spanish coins, copper nails, and barnacle-encrusted flintlock barrels. Maritime museums, where time speaks. In London, the Cutty Sark Museum preserves the last great clipper of the sail ship era. Visitors can study its detailed scale model, voyage charts, and lists of every sailor who served aboard. In Charleston, the Charleston Maritime Centre invites guests to explore the 1862 wreck of the Unity, complete with the shipmaster's log, recounting the storm that sank her and a surprise raid by Civil War blockade runners. In Barcelona, the Maritime Museum of Catalonia safeguards fragments of deck planking, bulkhead timbers, and even original slave trade contracts issued by the Barbary corsairs. Maritime archaeology, when technology meets history. Thanks to side-scan sonar, remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and multi-beam sensors, marine archaeologists now survey depths of thousands of metres to discover previously unknown wrecks. They capture 3D imagery, map every deck and hold, and analyse sediment layers to reconstruct how each ship met its end. A single Ming porcelain jar, an explosive powder keg, or a bag of Spanish silver can tell a story of cultural exchange, political conflict, and the crimes of pirates long past. Coastal relics, witnesses to history, deserted fortresses guarding the ports of Tripoli, Tunis, and Salé still stand as silent sentinels of the Barbary age. In Cartagena, Colombia, restored ramparts and an ancient lighthouse mark the sites of sieges between the Spanish Empire and Dutch privateers. At Port Royal, Jamaica, the ruins of churches, cobblestone streets and century-old milestones are preserved as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, commemorating the city of pirates swallowed by the 1692 earthquake. Living history communities, reenacting the past. Each year, living history societies around the globe stage festivals such as Days of the Deadly Sails or Barbary Week. Participants don pirate garb, rehearse swordplay and flintlock drills, and reenact tense hostage negotiation scenes, inviting onlookers to step back into the world of high-sea house. Adventure, education and research, setting sail for the future. Universities now offer specialisations in marine archaeology, maritime history, and oceanic culture. Students train underwater in preservation techniques for waterlogged wood, learn to restore inscribed stone, and transcribe sepia-stained manuscripts. They debate the ethics of excavation, cultural property rights, and the duty to protect the seabed's living reef communities, for every wreck is both artefact and habitat. Conservation and sustainable development. Non-profits and local authorities have established marine protected areas around wrecks, banning anchoring, restricting deep diving, and curbing overfishing. Guided dive tourism has emerged, with protocols to preserve underwater ruins gently, ensuring that these submerged time capsules remain intact for generations to come. Now, as you lean back and let your mind drift, picture those fractured hulls resting on the seafloor, planks rotted but nails still in place, the scars of pirate blades etched in wood. See the divers' lights piercing the cold, dark waters, illuminating a meeting of modern technology and ancient legend. Sleep well, carried by the ocean's hush, cradled by the knowledge that where history meets the deep, the spirit of the pirate still stirs, waiting to be rediscovered. As city lights dim and only the soft lap of waves remains, we turn to the third part of Chapter 6, hearing echoes of the modern pirates, not on the high seas, but woven into every corner of today's culture, transformed into vivid images, inspirations, and symbols for our world. Film and television, Pirates Never Die from Captain Jack Sparrow, of Pirates of the Caribbean, to gritty series like Black Sails and the animated epic One Piece, pirate icons are endlessly reinvented. On the big screen they range from ruthless villains to freedom-loving heroes. On TV they gain psychological depth as adventurers, schemers, or even symbols of rebellion. When the credits roll, audiences leap to their feet, their hearts still racing from a voyage unfinished. Video games, treasure maps on screen titles such as Sea of Thieves, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, and mobile hits like The Pirate. Caribbean Hunt let players roam virtual oceans. You hoist the sails, command your crew, hunt treasure, or engage enemy fleets. From tense PvP skirmishes to customizing ship decor, in-game pirates are more than looters. They're architects of their own style and legend. Music and fashion, wandering tunes, wild-style sea-inspired music, from the longest John's maritime folk to Deep Forest's shanty-flavoured EDM, evokes briny tavern revelry. In fashion, skull motifs, headscarves, long frock coats and high leather boots appear on streetwear and runways alike. Designers like Vivienne Westwood and Alexander McQueen have featured anchors, compasses, and cutlasses in haute couture collections, bringing pirate flair to fashion weeks and city streets. Tourism and entertainment. Anchors away for fun. Talk Like a Pirate Day, September 19th, has become a global phenomenon. People don sailor stripes, hoist Jolly Rogers, cheer ahoy matey in pirate-themed bars. In Caribbean Isles, pirate nights tours blend rum tasting, beach bonfires, and ghost stories. In Europe, coastal towns stage gondoliers' pirate evenings, decorating small boats as pirate ships and inviting guests to belt out ancient shanties under the stars. Hackers and digital pirates, icons beyond the sea. Online, the Skull and Crossbones marks everything from the anonymous hacker collective to P2P file-sharing apps and decentralized crypto pirate movements. Digital piracy, stealing software, music and video, has made pirate a household term for copyright infringement. That download button on a torrent site echoes the thrill of a lookout's cry at sea when pirates close in on a prize. Literature and art, reframing the adventure. From Stevenson's classic novels to graphic novels like One Piece, pirate comics and prose never let go of the iconography. Illustrations, film posters, and fan art plaster social media with curved sabres, anchors, billowing sails, and the steely gaze of unbowed captains, ensuring the imagery stays alive and bold. Events and education. Remembering, so we do not forget. Modern maritime museums host workshops on building your own pirate ship model, sword fighting classes, and lectures on piracy and international maritime law. Universities offer online courses in oceanic culture, studying pirate films and games through sociology, anthropology, and media studies, so students sleep peacefully with pirate lore, yet understand its history and symbolism. Now, as the street lamps fade, let your spirit drift through the vibrant moments of contemporary pirate culture. Imagine yourself aboard a cruise ship deck, sea breeze in your hair, with a rousing shanty echoing in your ears. Pirates today aren't just relics of the past. They've become an essential part of modern life, reminding us of our yearning for freedom, adventure, and the costs of sailing beyond the rules. Chapter 7. International Legal Framework and Anti-Piracy Cooperation. The boundless ocean no longer offers free rein to pirates. Instead, international conventions and naval coalitions have been forged to restore order on every sea. In the first part of Chapter 7, we'll explore how the global community, from the United Nations to regional bodies, has built laws and coordination mechanisms to confront the modern ghost of piracy. United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, 1982, often called the Constitution for the Oceans, establishes the rights and duties of coastal states and ships navigating territorial waters. Key zones include territorial sea, up to 12 nautical from baseline, full sovereignty of the coastal state, contiguous zone, up to 24 nautical, limited jurisdiction to enforce customs, immigration, and health laws, exclusive economic zone, EEZ, up to 200 nautical, sovereign rights to explore, exploit, conserve, and manage marine resources. Crucially for piracy, Articles 100 pound 107 declare all acts of piracy on the high seas are piracy under international law, and every state may seize a pirate ship or aircraft, arrest the persons, and seize the property on board. This gives any warship or Coast Guard legal authority to intervene, arrest, and prosecute pirates operating beyond 200 nautical. SUA Protocol, Suppression of Unlawful Acts, 1988. Developed under ICAO's auspices, the SUA Protocol extends unlawful acts to ships, maritime terrorism, seizure of ships by force, use of chemical or biological weapons, attacks on ports or offshore installations. States party to SUA agree that if they find suspects or weapons on a vessel claiming their flag, they will accept a handover note and prosecute offenders even if the crime occurred outside their territorial sea. RCAP and ICC-IMB Piracy Reporting Centre. In Asia, the Regional Cooperation Agreement on Combating Piracy and Armed Robbery Against Ships, RCAP, was launched in 2006, now covering 20 nations. RCAP issues daily alert bulletins and annual reports to share real-time sightings of suspicious skiffs, organise joint drills and capacity-building workshops, provide technical support on coastal radar, infrared cameras, and AIS monitoring. Similarly, the International Chamber of Commerce International Maritime Bureau, ICC-IMB, in Singapore, operates a 24/7 piracy reporting centre. It receives over 2,000 incident reports each year from more than 100 sea areas, and publishes the Piracy and Armed Robbery Map, a visual tool for ship operators, naval coalitions and coordinated operations. To tackle Somali piracy, since 2008, EU NAVFOR's Operation Atalanta, NATO's Operation Ocean Shield, and the US-led Combined Task Force 151 have jointly targeted pirate motherships, deployed helicopters to hunt high-speed skiffs, assisted merchant vessels to install high citadels, and trained crews in defence tactics. In the Gulf of Guinea, Pilot Task Force on West Africa's coast is emerging under ECOWAS and the African Union. Port State Control and Maritime Labour Convention, 2006, beyond UNCLMOS. Port State Control regimes allow countries to inspect foreign ships for safety defects, unflagged skiffs, or hidden weapons when they enter port. The Maritime Labour Convention, MLC 2006, mandates decent living and working conditions aboard ships, reducing the risk of crew resorting to piracy out of desperation or debt. Challenges and outlook. Despite this legal web, gaps remain. Resource constraints. Some developing states lack sufficient patrol vessels. Diverse threats, from crude oil siphoning and wildlife smuggling to cyber piracy. Geopolitical flashpoints. The South China Sea, the Black Sea, or the Arctic could flare anew. Looking ahead, the trends are clear. Enhanced multilateral dialogue through ASEAN, AU, and the OAS. AI and big data analytics to forecast high-risk zones. Dedicated maritime crime tribunals with cross-border jurisdiction. By weaving these threads, law, cooperation, and innovation, the world seeks to keep the seas open and secure against the enduring challenge of piracy. The vast ocean is no longer just the realm of romantic and ruthless adventures by classic pirates. In the modern era, it has become a complex front, demanding tight integration of legal frameworks, technology, and on-the-ground tactics to thwart maritime crime. While conventions and protocols have drawn the broad outline, beneath the waves an intricate ecosystem of innovation operates, everything from multi-role patrol warships to macro data monitoring centres. Somali waters. Once the epicenter of armed piracy, the deployment of EU NAVFOR's Operation Atalanta and Combined Task Force 151 marked only the beginning. Building on this, the mothership skiff model emerged. Modern destroyers and frigates bristling with X-band radar and IRST, infrared search and track, serve as eagle-eyed sentinels over a 5,000-metre water column. Below the surface, ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, dive deep to trace pirate caches of weapons and fuel. When hostages are taken aboard a tanker, international naval special operations units coordinate seamlessly with US SEALs, Britain's SBS and France's GIGN, using 3D deck schematics to plan night rescues with surgical precision. Gulf of Guinea. Here, pirates have shifted from boarding tankers to siphoning off fuel through concealed hatches. In response, ship owners now fit barrier nets along their hulls and mount high-pressure water cannons to repel boarders. Meanwhile, a rapid response mechanism calls for Nigeria's, Ghana's and Benin's maritime forces to launch speedboats within 30 minutes of an alert, operating under the Yaoundé Code's one-stop board standard. Joint coastal surveillance centres fuse AIS Advanced, ADS-B and satellite feeds, only flagging truly suspicious behaviour like AIS shutoffs or inexplicable engine stops. Asia's innovation, the birthplace of traditional piracy, continues to evolve. Since 2020, RESAYAP's AI-driven risk assessment system ingests historical attack data and meteorological factors, pressure, ship speed, to forecast pirate activity for the next 48 hours. When risk exceeds 0.8, automated SMS and email warnings advise ships to tighten watches, illuminate decks and keep clear of shallow zones. In the Strait of Malacca, where $1.2 trillion in goods transit annually, Singapore's Maritime Security Centre has deployed PTZ cameras with deep learning object detection trained on over 10,000 piracy images to distinguish fishing vessels, cruise ships and dubious skiffs in real time. Acoustic surveillance. Ports worldwide now employ hydrophones, underwater microphones, to detect skiff engines, metallic collisions, or the unique propeller cavitation signatures of pirate craft. Signal processing algorithms can then pinpoint hidden boats within tens of meters, a tactic especially effective in the turbulent waters off Lombok Strait and southern Philippines, where islands and coastal caverns provide countless hideouts. Information sharing. Initiatives. Under IMO's Global Maritime Crime Programme, member states commit to weekly maritime security, weekly infographics detailing coordinates, vessel descriptions, attack scenarios, and countermeasures. This open data, integrated on ArcGIS Online, lets shipmasters plot green safe zones and yellow caution areas on interactive maps. Training and capacity building. IMO and ILO co-host STCW PF courses, standards of training, certification, and watchkeeping for fishing vessel personnel, extended to merchant mariners to cover anti-piracy tactics, first aid, distress signalling, and hostage protection. In Africa, the Nigerian Maritime Security Fund sponsors a Maritime Academy Fellowship that brings in trainers from the Netherlands and Singapore to teach radar and sonar operation, boarding tactics, and legal procedures for evidence handling and witness interviews. Public-private partnerships. Major shipping lines, Maersk, MSC and CMA CGM, have formed the Global Maritime Security Alliance, funding 360-degree shipboard cameras and long-range drones, and linking directly to national navies via an online hot pursuit channel. From 2018 to 2023, this cooperation helped slash fuel hatch drilling incidents by 45% and crew kidnappings by 60% in West Africa, according to ICC-IMB annual reports. European experimentation. In Mediterranean ports, critical for oil and gas imports, the EU and EIB-funded Safe Seas project trials trap buoys, seafloor anchored sensors that, when an unknown skiff approaches, broadcast high-frequency signals to AS and patrol boat radar, while flashing blue warning lights at night. Powered by wave energy and reverse GPRS, these buoys remain operational far longer than conventional battery-powered floats. Sustainable coastal development. NGOs like Oceans Beyond Piracy and Fair Seas run alternative livelihoods programs to help fishermen, once coerced into piracy, switch to sustainable fishing or ecotourism. UNDP's Coastal Watch pilot in Mozambique and Tanzania outfitted fishing boats with motion sensors linked to mobile alerts, cutting local pirate attacks by over 30% in the Quirimbas archipelago. Yet even the most advanced technology cannot wholly replace human vigilance. Lieutenant Commander Thack of Vietnam's Coast Guard recalls, "A single moment's lapse can be all a pirate needs. We train crews in steel-nerved readiness, conducting bi-monthly drills to lock down critical compartments, activate our floating clinic, and safeguard injured personnel." Equipped with 4K surveillance systems and mobile command centres, these measures have reduced incident rates by 80% in Vietnam's southwestern waters, across turbulent seas where law, technology, and dedicated people unite. Piracy is no longer an unstoppable force. Every patrol boat, every monitoring centre, and every coastal fisherman plays a part in safeguarding global maritime trade and the livelihoods of millions who depend on the sea. As the oceans evolve, so too does the battle against piracy. In this second part of Chapter 7, we examine cutting-edge innovations, from unmanned aerial systems to AI risk forecasting, and the vital human networks that bind them together. Somali Basin upgrades. Building on EU, nay, for Atalanta and CTF-151, modern frigates and destroyers now serve as eagle eyes, with X-band radars and IRST suites, scanning up to 5,000 metres. ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, dive deep to map hidden caches of weapons and fuel. When hostages are aboard a tanker, international special forces, US SEALs, UK SBS, France's GIGN, use 3D ship deck simulations for precision night rescues. Gulf of Guinea. Rapid response. Major shipping firms equip hulls with barrier nets and high-pressure water cannons. A rapid response mechanism compels Nigerian, Ghanaian, and Beninese maritime forces to launch speedboats within 30 minutes of an alert, under the ECOWAS-backed Yaoundé Code's one-stop board standard. Coastal fusion centres integrate AIS Advanced, ADS-B, and satellite data, only flagging genuine threats like sudden AIS cuts or unexplained engine stoppages. Asia's AI-driven forecasting. Since 2020, Reese Hayap's AI-powered risk assessment system ingests historical attack patterns and meteorological data, wind speed, sea state, to predict piracy risk for the next 48 hours. Alerts above a 0.8 threshold trigger automated SMS and email warnings to ships, recommending heightened watch, deck lighting, and avoidance of shallow waters. In the Strait of Malacca, handling 1.2 trillion in trade annually, Singapore's Maritime Security Centre uses PTZ cameras with deep learning object recognition, trained on 10,000 plus piracy images, to classify fishing boats, cruise ships, and suspect skiffs in real time. Acoustic surveillance, hydrophone arrays. In key ports, listen for skiff engines, hull breaches, or the telltale cavitation noises of pirate craft. Signal processing algorithms can then locate hidden boats within tens of metres, crucial in labyrinthine waters off Lombok Strait and southern Philippines. Global information sharing. Under IMO's Global Maritime Crime Programme, states issue weekly maritime security weeklies, infographics detailing coordinates, vessel types, attack methods and mitigation tactics. These feeds sync on ArcGIS Online, so shipmasters can map safe green zones and cautionary yellow zones. Training and human capacity. IMO and ILO co-sponsor STEWPF courses, standards of training certification, and watchkeeping for fishing vessel personnel, extended to merchant crews, covering anti-piracy tactics, first aid, distress signalling, and hostage rescue. In Africa, the Nigerian Maritime Security Fund sponsors a fellowship program, bringing experts from the Netherlands and Singapore to teach radar, sonar, boarding tactics and legal procedures for handling evidence and witness testimony. Public-private alliances, shipping. Giants, Maersk, MSC, CMA CGM, formed the Global Maritime Security Alliance, outfitting vessels with 360-degree cameras and long-range drones linked to national navies via a hot pursuit channel. Between 2018 and 2023, These partnerships cut fuel hatch drilling by 45% and crew kidnappings by 60% in West Africa, ICC-IMB data. European trap buoy trials. In the Mediterranean's critical oil and gas lanes, the EU EIB-funded Safe Seas project pilots seabed trap buoys, sensors that broadcast high-frequency signals to AIS and patrol vessel radar when unknown skiffs approach, while flashing blue warning lights at night. Powered by wave energy and reverse GPRS, these buoys avoid the limitations of battery-powered floats. Coastal livelihood programs, NGOs like Oceans Beyond Piracy and Fair Seas run alternative livelihood schemes to help former pirate-recruited fishermen shift to sustainable fisheries or ecotourism. UNDP's Coastal Watch pilot in Mozambique and Tanzania installed motion sensors on fishing boats tied to mobile alerts, cutting local pirate incidents by over 30% in the Quirimbas archipelago. Human vigilance remains key. Major Thack, commander of Vietnam's Coast Guard, notes, "One lapse is all a pirate needs. We train crews twice monthly to lock down critical compartments, activate our floating clinic, and protect wounded personnel." Equipped with 4K surveillance and mobile command centres, such drills have slashed incident rates by 80% in Vietnam's southwestern waters. Looking forward. No matter how advanced, technology and law cannot replace human collaboration. The future of maritime security will be a seamless system, from flexible international treaties and modern tech defences to well-trained personnel and robust multilateral cooperation. The oceans test humanity's ability to work together. Every ship passage involves navies, coast guards, maritime police, and international lawyers. Every wave marks the clash between freedom and discipline. Chapter 8. Blue Seas and Pirate Tourism, when legend becomes experience. In the glittering dawn light on emerald clear waters, our adventure turns a new page. No longer mere tales preserved through the ages, but living experiences where modern travellers can step into the pirate's role. Feel the deck's wooden sway, breathe the salty air, laced with torch smoke. Chapter 8, Part 1, opens the door to the world of pirate immersion travel, where heritage and legend merge with seafaring tours, transforming every ship, island, and spiced rum into a vibrant set piece. Caribbean reenactments, from the Bahamas to Antigua and Barbuda, tour companies have reconstructed authentic 17th century pirate ships, built of teak and Eastern European oak, bearing names like Black Raven, Sea Wraith, or Crimson Corsair. Guests boarding the deck don locally tailored period garb, loose linen shirts, drawstring breeches, skull-patterned headscarves, and brown leather belts hung with replica cutlasses. The captain guide recounts each vessel's story, from its name's origins to its legendary sea battles, transporting passengers to the days when Jamaica was plundered, and to the exploits of Eleanor, Black Peggy, who once faced down 4 male pirates alone. Each voyage lasts 4 days and 3 nights, calling at uninhabited isles where pirates buried their treasure. At dawn, guests board skiffs to explore coral reefs and dive for relics, casks of Mediterranean wine, shards of porcelain, even Spanish coins encrusted with barnacles. A marine archaeologist shows them how to use handheld metal detectors, read an X-marked treasure map, and perform basic artifact conservation. At sunset, the pirate crew gathers on deck to mix hot, spiced rum with cinnamon and clove, sing age-old shanties by torchlight, and let the sea breeze whisper tales of freedom. Viking longship voyages in Norway. Not only the Caribbean, but also Europe's coasts now host pirate tourism. In Norway, travellers board paddle-powered Viking longship replicas to slice through the fjord's cold waters toward Lindisfarne, site of the Vikings' first raid on an English monastery in 793. There, historians and archaeologists reconstruct a cattle-hide tent, display axes, swords and iron helmets, and stage longship rowing races across the bay, teaching guests how to coordinate strokes and maintain balance. By night, fires set on board illuminate smoked venison glazed with honey, as skalds recount the saga of the Northmen, whose dragon-headed sails once terrorized Eastern Europe. Seychelles Corsair, adventures in the Indian Ocean. On remote atolls of the Maldives and Seychelles, Seychelles Corsairs tours take guests on scuba dives around a miniature wreck of the wider galley, followed by underwater videography workshops to capture the excitement of artifact hunting. After diving, participants attend a pirate symposium led by a former French naval captain and a haute Arab cultural scholar who analyse secret pacts between Barbary corsairs and the Ottoman Empire, then invite everyone to savour Moroccan mint tea to the haunting strains of the oud, recalling ancient ties between pirates and the spice trade. Malay pirate immersion in Southeast Asia. In the Strait of Malacca, East Coast Malaysia hosts monthly Malay pirate voyages from Kuala Terengganu. Guests wear tasselled sarongs, learn the kipas fan dance, used to conceal weapons, and pilot a traditional perahu layar through mangrove-lined channels. The rustle of leaves and hum of outboard motors test their seamanship. On the final night, they gather in a stilt house hall to hear passages from the Babad Tanah Jawi, recounting the 1511 fall of Malacca, when Malay corsairs allied with the Portuguese to drive out the Spanish, underscoring the complex interplay between piracy and empire, heritage conservation and local benefits. Every destination and vessel is tied to preserving local culture. Jamaica's Port Royal Museum partners its Pirate Ruins tour, exploring earthquake-shattered churches, cobblestone streets and the 1692 tomb site. With hands-on archaeology, guests help restore wooden flutes, pottery shards and horseshoes. Tour precedes fund site restoration, training local youths as guides and underwater archaeologists. Captain for a Day charters. For thrill seekers, luxury charters offer a Captain for a Day package. Clients helm the vessel, issue orders to the uniformed crew, conduct security drills, checking AIS, testing top speed, then furl sails and drop anchor, just as pirates once reclaimed their prizes. This full-pressure experience lets them feel the decks heave, taste salt spray, and endure the equatorial sun's full glare. Memories that endure long after the voyage ends. As night falls and lanterns cast a warm glow over the deck, you'll see silhouettes foreshortened against the rail, raising rum-filled mugs and breaking into hearty shanties. The drumbeat and handclaps echo across the water, celebrating freedom and adventure, reminding us that every journey, even tourism, can be a bridge between past and present, turning pirate legend into lived reality. When you close your eyes, let the sea's lullaby cradle you. Picture yourself aboard a restored pirate ship, gripping the helm, tracing the worn grooves in the wooden deck, and living the vibrant legacy of pirates beneath a sky thick with starlight. Gentle ripples lap against the hull, in time with the steady strokes of the newly trained crew, guiding us into another chapter of our voyage. One where the pirate legacy goes beyond wooden decks and flamboyant costumes, and unfolds into subtle, multi-dimensional experiences woven with local culture, community, and tomorrow's technologies. Passengers aboard the Caribbean Dream don't just join a torchlit rum feast. They're invited to a workshop, crafting recycled metal pirate knives under the guidance of a Jamaican artisan, creating both a keepsake and an understanding of how precious iron was in centuries past. When the ship anchors in Blue Lagoon Bay, guests form small teams, each paired with a local fishing family, to learn how to catch starfish and read the ancient inscriptions etched into goose barnacles, using the Pirate's Eye AR app. Through a smartphone camera, a shell transforms into an old Spanish milestone, inscribed with the names of the long-ago crew and their skirmish with French privateers. As dusk falls, clusters of glowing eco-beacon buoys, powered by bioluminescent algae, light the way to the wreck of the submarine Moor, once hidden in a coral reef, now reborn as a safe, LED-lit dive site. Beyond private islands, large resorts are adding pirate ports to their marinas, complete with night markets selling skull-shaped fritters, spiced pineapple Blackbeard's punch, and open-air stages for wooden bow dances that evoke a pirate ship's lowering sails. Each stall awards a digital badge to guests' e-wallets. Collect 10 badges and you earn a limited edition NFT depicting Jack Sparrow racing across the waves. An inventive fusion of community culture and digital economy. Under the waves, deep-sea experience dives don't just showcase real wrecks. They use 3D sonar and helmet-mounted cameras so divers watch the ship's structure mapped in real time, manipulating a digital overlay to navigate into treasure holds where copper-hued lasers simulate gleaming gold. Before each descent, guides host a sea code mini hackathon on deck, challenging teams to decipher riddles from historic ship logs. Winners earn AR goggles that display English-Spanish annotations in their underwater field of vision. In parallel, UNESCO and the UN World Tourism Organization's Pirate Heritage Fellowship brings together writers, artists, musicians, and indigenous trackers to co-create sustainable pirate tours. They survey coral reef impacts and design suspended wooden piers to prevent shoreline erosion, training local youth as reef stewards who both guide divers and collect biodiversity data, providing an alternative livelihood to destructive fishing. Across Europe, the Viva Corsaro program in southern Italy recreates a medieval pirate camp. Visitors role-play as Venetian or Genoese merchants negotiating hostage ransoms with Captain Barbarossa, then debrief in strategy sessions to sharpen critical thinking and negotiation skills. At dinner, chefs revive Adriatic abalone and Malvasia wine as once savoured by Illyrian corsairs, an Epicurean tribute to a time when piracy and nobility intersected. In Asia, Nagasaki's Corsairs of Nippon offers an overnight aboard a hybrid Japon, a blend of Arab dhow and Chinese junk, where guests sip licorice-infused sake, hear tales of Woku raids on cherry blossom festivals, then try their hand at katana fencing under a kendo master, discovering how obsolete firearms and swords once shaped pirate tactics across these waters. Such offerings are more than mere entertainment. They're forging a smart pirate tourism sector, sustainable, scholarly, and deeply rooted in local culture. Maritime universities now partner with tour operators to create pirate studies courses, in which students analyse guest behaviour, assess cultural and environmental impacts, and propose balanced solutions that protect heritage, boost local economies, and preserve marine ecosystems. As the tide rises and the Caribbean dream weighs anchor, it carries guests enriched by a multi-layered pirate immersion, from food and drink to art, technology, and community livelihoods. Storms and mysteries still await beyond the horizon, but each voyage leaves its own indelible mark, weaving pirate legend into modern life. And when travellers return home, they'll whisper to friends, "Once you've been a pirate, there's no turning back." As night deepens over the sea, and the faint glow from VR consoles illuminates the eager faces of pirate enthusiasts, our voyage continues, this time into an interconnected virtual realm where the lines between reality and maritime legend blur. From ancient wooden vessels to bustling night markets, every corner of Port Royal or Kattegat can be vividly recreated in mixed reality, MR. Participants don't just watch, they interact, opening treasure chests, turning the helm, even hearing the crash of waves and the hiss of wind through a 3D audio system. A group of guests in VR diving suits step onto the virtual deck, feeling realistic tremors thanks to force feedback devices. They scrutinise a glowing treasure map that springs to life when they touch the correct coordinates, summoning 3D holograms of former sailors recounting storms they weathered and pirate tactics they employed. Meanwhile, an AI companion called Corsair Guide analyses each person's voice and interaction style, weaving dynamic dialogue into the scenario. So one guest hears of a Malacca Strait ambush, while another experiences a first-hand account of a Somali anti-piracy patrol. Beyond personalised adventures, Pirate Tourism 4.0 employs blockchain to issue digital sailor certificates for every achievement, from cracking nautical codes to completing a wreck diving mission. These certificates become collectible NFTs you can trade, gift, or redeem for priority access on future voyages. Children join the virtual Pirate Academy, where history lessons are gamified. Answer UNCLOS trivia correctly to purchase rare maps and unlock new artifact hunting quests. Back in the real world, guests swap VR headsets for AR-enabled devices. A simple phone held up to the marina brings a ghostly galleon into view beside the dock, overlays Port Royal's ramparts on historic buildings, and fills Jamaican streets with the beat of traditional drums. Holographic mirrors in waterfront bars let visitors don the likenesses of Jack Sparrow or Anne Bonny and snap photos against virtual coral reefs or treasure vaults, instantly shareable on social media. This blended approach doesn't just thrill tech aficionados, it also deepens local cultural promotion. AR map slayer in calypso music, traditional rum recipes, and folk dance tutorials. On a more conscientious note, Pirate Revival metaverse projects are creating virtual museums that digitally archive 3D scans of authentic artifacts. Guests can explore a sunken vault on the ocean floor, adjusting virtual lights to inspect coins, porcelain shards, and waterlogged wood. Marine archaeologists host online symposiums, connecting experts worldwide to develop best practices for preserving and reconstructing underwater heritage, and to set new standards for maritime digital conservation. Yet, amid all this high-tech spectacle, Pirate Tour organisers never lose sight of the heart of the legend, people and their stories. They regularly hold sailor gatherings in VR, inviting descendants of coastal fishermen, underwater archaeologists, and retired Navy officers to share their real-life experiences, tales of family members held hostage, or memories of anti-piracy campaigns. In those authentic moments, laughter, weather-beaten expressions, voices roughened by sun and wind, past and present converge, so that each guest, even in simulated seas, feels the living pulse of history and our shared responsibility to safeguard the oceans. The pirates of old and the digital corsairs of tomorrow become part of one immersive, creative voyage. Chapter 9. Lessons from the ocean's currents. As the sea lies silent beneath a canopy of glittering stars, we pause to absorb the echoes of millennia of piracy. Not only its wild adventures, but the wealth of lessons each wave and current holds. In part 1 of Chapter 9, we reflect on the historical teachings left by pirates, figures who walked the fine line between freedom and the law, personal ambition and communal responsibility. From the earliest days when small dugout canoes ambushed trading vessels, humanity paid a steep price. Lost provisions, damaged cargo, and even sailors' lives. The first lesson, etched in ancient chronicles, is that maritime trade routes are never inherently secure. King Sargon the Great established the Uruk River Guard to patrol the Tigris-Euphrates waterways, a precedent for later powers. Stone carvings at Nippur warn, a silent tide does not guarantee peace. That still rings true for modern shippers who pay for escorts through the Gulf of Guinea or the Strait of Malacca. Turning to the Middle Ages, the exploits of the Vikings and Barbary corsairs teach the importance of synergy between technology and human skill. Vikings relied on natural signs to navigate, yet they continuously refined their longships, lowering the centre of gravity and elongating the hull for speed and stability. Barbary pirates deployed shore-mounted cannons to intimidate merchantmen, proving that firepower alone is ineffective without organisation, training, and tactical savvy. Pompey's campaign against Cilicia, using coastal catapults, demonstrated that mastery of technology demands strategic application to change history's course. In the age of discovery, privateers became covert diplomatic tools, reminding us of national responsibility and personal ethics. Queen Elizabeth I's sanction of Francis Drake's raids challenged Spain's power, but when peace returned, Britain found itself entangled in diplomatic fallout. Modern governments must weigh the long-term consequences of empowering outlaws. A legal act today can become grounds for reparations or international censure tomorrow. The golden age of Caribbean piracy offers a lesson in freedom paired with accountability. Henry Morgan and Blackbeard gained pardons and noble titles, yet many of their comrades were abandoned to jail or an ignoble death. This shows that unbridled liberty, without fair sharing of spoils, democratic shipboard governance, and shore-based support, breeds injustice and resistance. Today's societies must channel grassroots energy into regulated frameworks that protect vulnerable members, lest new pirate factions emerge as illicit interest groups. During the Song-Tang suppression of piracy in East Asia, China, Korea, and Japan formed their first naval alliance to hunt Wokou pirates, despite underlying rivalries. In the 21st century, the UN and ASEAN look to that model. Only through shared intelligence, joint drills, standardised arrest procedures can regional piracy be extinguished. Short-term self-interest must give way to lasting security. With modern technology's ascent, transparency and surveillance are paramount. AIS, K-band satellites, blockchain cargo tracking, and AEI risk modelling all prove invaluable, provided data are shared openly and updated in real time. Yet sovereignty concerns linger. Coastal states may balk at foreign warships patrolling their EEZs. Maritime security policies must balance territorial integrity with collective benefit, ensuring transparency while upholding international law. A timeless lesson is the value of human expertise. No matter how advanced ROVs or USVs become, they cannot replace the human spirit. Training programs, boarding drills, officer exchanges, floating citadel protocols, and maritime hackathons all demonstrate that only highly skilled, psychologically prepared personnel, capable of technical operations, crisis negotiation, and under-pressure decision-making, can run an effective maritime security system. History shows that without quality human crews, even the most sophisticated patrol craft become little more than expensive hulks. In tourism and cultural preservation, respect and sustainability are key. Reenactments on the Caribbean Dream, or wreck diving tours, must centre local heritage and communities. Port Royal's experience proves that when tourism revenues fund site restoration, archaeological research, and training local guides and divers, both the economy and cultural value flourish. Pursuing visitor numbers at the expense of conservation yields hollow attractions and irreversible loss. As climate change redraws sea lanes, sustainability and adaptability become existential. The melting northern sea route shortens Asia-Europe voyages by 40%, but brings threats to fragile ecosystems. Joint Russian-Canadian environmental monitoring and naval patrols in Arctic waters offer a blueprint. In the tropics, coral reef decline mandates diver tours to include artificial reef restoration. Honouring the pirates of old who lived in harmony with the sea, we must now protect its smallest corsair creatures, reef-building organisms once called ocean's privateers. Adventure requires responsibility. Pirates taught us that humans crave freedom, conquest, and discovery. But freedom does not mean lawlessness. Rules, boundaries, and a spirit of shared duty are essential. When a tourist plays captain for a day, they experience power, but also the burden of safety, harmony, and respect for history. That blend of daring and responsibility is a timeless message from the sea, an invitation to those who dare to hoist the sails. Let the steady crash of waves carry you into dreams, remembering the wind-filled sails and the lessons hidden in every swell. At dawn, you will rise ready to greet the ocean's next curve, with resolve, wisdom, and an unending spirit of adventure. After we've absorbed the deep lessons carved by the currents of history, we cast our gaze beyond the horizon, where ports, shipping lanes, and island communities stretch from the Arctic to the Southern Ocean. In part 2 of this chapter, we explore how those lessons are now being applied, from national policies to global initiatives, to ensure security, sustainability, and harmony for coastal residents, seafarers, tourists, and marine and terrestrial ecosystems alike. The India-Australia Friendship Fleet. India and Australia have pioneered the Friendship Fleet, a hybrid naval force combining patrol vessels, rescue ships, and survey craft. Operating alongside customs authorities, they intercept drug smugglers in the Indian Ocean and deter illegal incursions through the Torres Strait. On each rotation, Indian and Australian crews jointly drill on suspect vessel boardings, crew rescues, and document inspections. Uniquely, they carry a mobile medical team to vaccinate and treat fishermen on remote islands, linking maritime security to community health. ESA ICAO, multi-layer surveillance building on AIS data, the European Space Agency, ESA, and ICAO have developed a multi-layer surveillance system. Civil ships broadcast their positions publicly while sending an encrypted layer of data accessible only to navies and coast guards. Blockchain secures that layer against tampering, so authorities can instantly flag suspicious behaviour, like a vessel's sudden course reversal or unexplained stop, without waiting for court orders or central government directives. ASEAN-China Blue Border Initiative. In Southeast Asia, ASEAN and China have expanded the Blue Border Initiative to address not only piracy, but also overfishing inside EEZs and in international waters. Multi-purpose patrol vessels now carry sonars to detect banned fishing nets and environmental sensors measuring water pH and temperature, helping nations identify reef zones in need of protection. A shared data platform lets each state update ecological metrics and fishing boat movements in real time, reducing conflict between local fishers and enforcement officers. African Community Port Network. Contrary to large naval deployments, the African Union pilots a community port network, empowering local authorities and NGOs to manage small harbours. Former pirates turned fishers are recruited as early warning patrols, monitoring invasive water hyacinths and plastic waste. In return, they receive training in sustainable fishing, seafood preservation, and market access, eliminating the economic pressures that once drove them to crime. EU's digital maritime security strategy. The European Union has adopted a digital maritime security strategy, synchronizing coastal radars, surveillance cameras, and AI-driven alerts. Crucially, it mandates strict data sharing protocols among member states, preventing any country from hoarding information in the name of sovereignty. Centuries after European powers sealed their ports against Barbary corsairs, this strategy reminds us, only by opening data can we seal security breaches and create truly safe common sea Pacific, adaptive coral reefs. In the Pacific, the Adaptive Coral Reef Project uses 3D printed concrete frames coated with biomaterials to accelerate coral regrowth after storms. These frames sit behind anti-boarding nets, simultaneously deterring intruders and protecting reefs from destructive anchoring. Fiji's Coast Guard and dive tour operators collaborate with tourists to install reef modules and monitor coral health via helmet-mounted cameras. Swiss Maritime Security Symposium. Each year, the Swiss Maritime Security Symposium brings together government leaders, naval officers, and tech experts. In the Piracy and Food Security Roundtable, they analyse how Gulf of Guinea pirate attacks disrupt oil supply chains and threaten food security by stalling fisheries. Their recommendation? Establish a maritime emergency fund to support coastal communities in crisis, rather than leaving them vulnerable to pirate recruitment. drafting a transnational maritime crime code. UN legal experts are drafting a transnational maritime crime code, a model law for all states. It will clarify jurisdiction for arresting maritime offenders and mandate the sharing of electronic evidence, AIS records, drone footage, satellite imagery, to streamline prosecutions when suspects are seized in one nation's EEZ but tried in another's courts. Cultivating a sea community. Ethos NGOs such as Oceans Without Borders and Sea Shepherd not only hunt pirates but also run seaside workshops for students, instilling respect for marine laws, stewardship of the environment, and pride in ocean heritage. They remind youth that great captains were admired not just for their sabres, but for their passion for the sea. The message is clear. To be a modern pirate of ideals, you must pursue freedom while putting collective security and ecosystem health first. As dawn breaks, we sense the breath of a new ocean, one protected by ancient wisdom, cutting-edge technology, and boundless cooperation. Every wind-filled sail, every patrol launched, every reef frame installed, and every fishing net monitored weaves together a living tapestry of seas that have learned both to defend themselves and to nurture the adventurous spirit of humankind. Next time you draw in a deep breath of salt air on the shore, remember, this journey never truly ends. It lives on in fresh policies, emerging technologies, and the hearts of those who safeguard freedom, security, and life in the limitless blue. As the final sails of Chapter 9 gently come down, we look ahead undaunted. Our struggle is no longer merely humans versus pirates, but the shared voyage of all humankind with the world's oceans. In the future, every decision on maritime security, every technological advance, and every coastal community program will continue writing the story of how we join hands to protect this deep blue lifeline. Climate change and coastal resilience. Rising seas threaten to swallow low-lying coral atolls, displacing millions of coastal residents and pushing them into poverty, a key driver of piracy and smuggling. The plight of Tuvalu and Kiribati teaches us that maritime security must be tied to sustainable community development. Building seawalls, promoting eco-friendly fish farming, and training local youth in digital skills so they can work remotely rather than gamble on illegal ventures at sea. Converging technologies. Tomorrow's ocean guardians will blend AI, IoT, and marine biology. Automated observation stations will measure not only waves and wind, but also the migrations of anchovies, sea cucumbers, and plankton, linking ecological value with commercial security. Drones and submersible robots will serve dual roles, intercepting pirates and planting coral larvae, collecting genetic data on native fish, transforming each patrol ship into a node where technology meets conservation. The Calypso Treaty concept, UNCLOS and the SUA protocol will remain foundations, but a proposed Calypso Treaty would tax shipping carbon emissions and direct proceeds to small island communities and coral reef restoration projects. This novel approach both penalises pollution and turns maritime transport into a financial engine for security and ecosystem health. Next Gen Maritime Alliance. The Next Gen Maritime Alliance is a cross-border network uniting navies, coast guards, fishermen's associations, logistics firms, and student groups. Regular Hack the Ocean hackathons challenge teams to devise solutions, from multispectral imaging cameras and oil spill sensors to advanced piracy hotspot forecasting algorithms. Prototypes such as self-repairing reef seeding, unmanned underwater vehicles, or drone-deployed rescue winches are tested off the Caribbean or in the Bay of Bengal. Education and culture. Each year, UNESCO and the IMO co-host Ocean Innovation Day, inviting students to create short films, poems and artwork about the sea, making the call to safeguard our shared waters resonate with new generations. Meanwhile, the Maritime Academy 4.0 offers free online training, combining VR, AR simulations and field exercises, so anyone, anywhere, can learn ship operations, anti-piracy tactics, and reef management. Green port autonomy. Next-generation ports like Rotterdam and Singapore X are experimenting with self-sustaining eco-ports. They automate 90% of operations, power themselves with wind and solar, and host safe nurseries for sea turtles and juvenile fish in habitats adjacent to the docks. Visiting ships refill hydrogen fuel cells and scan QR codes to verify supply chain integrity, ensuring cargo never passes through unlawful intermediaries. A new maritime ecosystem. This is the future pirates could never have imagined. Not a war of blades and theft, but an ocean ecosystem where humans, machines, economic growth, and biological conservation coexist. In that world, every small act, plotting a safe AIS route, joining a coral restoration workshop, or powering down engines at anchor to reduce disturbance, carries profound meaning. When you return from your pirate for a day adventure, remember that the sea demands not just captains but stewards. Every milestone, from the footfall at Barbary ports to VR dives in Port Royal, reminds us true freedom lies not in lawlessness, but in shared responsibility. So let us keep our oceans endlessly blue, so that future generations not only imagine legendary pirates, but inherit a peaceful, secure, and vibrant seascape. Chapter 10. The Ocean of the Future. When the sea becomes a digital network. Under the pale dawn of a new day, the ocean is no longer merely a vast mass of deep blue water, but is steadily becoming a digital network, where data, technology, and humanity unite to explore, protect, and reshape the ocean's future. Part 1 of Chapter 10 unveils a new horizon, as concepts of maritime discovery are redefined through a digital lens. At the Global Ocean Digital Twin Hub, experts and programmers are building 3D digital replicas of every continental shelf, bay, and current. Every grain of sand, coral reef, migrating school of fish, and even minute temperature changes are updated in real time via IoT sensors anchored to buoys and deployed on sea drones. When the tide rises, the model's colour palette shifts automatically to reflect the new thermal layers and deliver hyper-accurate forecasts to fishermen, cruise ships, and anti-piracy patrols, helping them steer clear of high-risk zones. In a mixed reality workshop called Shark Tracks, game designers and marine scientists collaborate to let participants dive into an artificial reef's deep chamber wearing VR headsets. Attendees hear the clatter of a fossil-studded seabed while tracking real shark migrations overlaid on a digital map using biotagging data streamed live. This immersive experience drives home the intricate links among food chains, overfishing pressure, and climate change. On the security front, the digital twin is used to simulate cyber attacks on an oil tanker's automated control systems or a container ship's navigation suite. Cybersecurity engineers stage virtual breaches, spoofing AIS signals, or falsifying GPS coordinates to observe the vessel's automated defences, from kill switches to engine lockdowns and emergency distress calls. It's through these exercises that shipping companies refine protocols, install redundant networks, and train crews in digital intrusion drills. Smart ports on shore are transforming too. AI orchestrates cargo flows, optimises berth assignments, and auto-triggers security alerts when fast-moving skiffs approach a hull. Behaviour analysis algorithms in surveillance cameras can now distinguish a legitimate tugboat refueling operation from a pirate skiff in disguise, instantly dispatching port security or alerting nearby naval units. Meanwhile, underwater archaeological mapping has gone digital. UUVs equipped with multi-beam sonar scan seafloors metre by metre, locating centuries-old shipwrecks buried under sediment. Live data streams back to servers, generating high-resolution 3D wreck maps that allow archaeologists to plan precise dives, recovering fragile artefacts without damaging timber hulls or living coral. In education, cloud classrooms at sea let students worldwide step into a virtual ship's bridge, choosing courses, adjusting speed, and tackling security or ecological missions. Spatial audio. Headsets convey the rush of wind and distant foghorns as a virtual instructor guides them through anti-piracy protocols. Such interactive learning forges a deeper sense of ocean stewardship, from coral reef protection to anti-piracy vigilance. Connected cruises are also being tested. Passengers link personal devices to the ship's systems to book VR dive experiences, join on-deck AR treasure hunts, or download an interactive climate voyage documentary showing rising sea levels' impact on coral islands beneath them. Post-cruise, an AI-driven guest profile recommends future sustainable activities aligned with each traveller's interests and conservation commitment. All these innovations mark only the beginning of ocean digitization. Humanity will learn to listen to the sea via digital signals, monitoring subtle changes in temperature and water height, forecasting storms, and even preempting piracy. In this digital realm, the ocean becomes a living testament to the link between past and future, between pirate legends and our drive for technological mastery, between human achievement and an undying spirit of adventure. As the ocean night yields to dawn, let your mind drift toward those glowing data streams on a virtual chart, each beacon, each coloured dot, telling the ceaseless story of humanity's voyage with the sea. A journey of digitization, yet rich in humanity, where freedom and responsibility sail hand in hand, sketching the portrait of the ocean of tomorrow. In the thin veil of night's mist just fading, the digital ocean lights up with pristine dots of data, tiny stars igniting hope for a new dawn. We stand at the final leg of our voyage, where sea and technology merge, weaving an invisible thread that connects people everywhere to the pulse of the waves. Part 2 of Chapter 10 continues that journey, sketching a panoramic vision of how the digital ocean becomes the lifeblood that fuels collective intelligence and guards the creatures beneath the waves. As our virtual vessel glides over streams of data, every square metre of water is subdivided into 50 × 50 centimetre cells, each quietly measuring salinity, pH, oxygen levels, and plankton density via IoT sensors. That torrent of real-time information feeds machine learning models that predict coral reef shifts, marking dead zones in urgent need of rescue and life zones to nurture. Conservation teams can then dispatch drones to spray new coral larvae or release shoals of fish to rebalance the ecosystem. But the digital sea isn't just for scientists, it's a tool for community engagement. With the Ocean Pulse app, anyone can point their phone at the water and see an interactive AR overlay of darting fish schools, waving kelp forests, and ghostly silhouettes of old wooden ships, accompanied by narrated tales of local heritage. Coastal residents, tourists, and school children alike can tap on any virtual creature or relic to unlock its story, reminding them that they are the first guardians of these marine wonders. On the bridge of a multinational patrol vessel, the security coordination map displays the routes of tankers, cruise ships, and private boats in real time. If a vessel's AIS signal abruptly cuts out, the deep sight system automatically cross-references the latest satellite imagery and issues an urgent alert to naval authorities in neighbouring nations. An end-to-end process completed in milliseconds over a 5G maritime network, culminating in a quick human verification video call between a naval officer and the ship's captain, stopping piracy in its tracks before a shot is fired. In port, the United Nations Green Corridor designates lanes for clean energy ships powered by wind, solar, and hydrogen fuel cells. These vessels carry a marine black box recording position, engine status, and emissions, ensuring full transparency with the international community. Compared to conventional shipping, the corridor cuts CO2 emissions by 40% and all but eliminates piracy-related oil spills, since any slick is detected and traced immediately. Meanwhile, the Smart Fishers network empowers millions of small-scale fishers with sustainable fishing data streamed to satellite-connected tablets, where fish densities are highest, where stocks are depleted, and where storms are brewing. Informed by this data, they steer clear of storms and no-go pirate areas, rewriting history so that no one must risk everything to secure a livelihood through illegal means. Deep below, AI-powered Reef Alive combines Aquabot drone scans, spectral imaging, and microbiome analysis to monitor natural coral recovery after thermal stress. It becomes an automated underwater lab where juvenile corals are nurtured and rare species propagated according to digital blueprints, then published openly via HTTPS so researchers worldwide can access and replicate the methods. In cyberspace, the virtual Corsair community hosts a decentralized blockchain-backed repository of stories, images, digitized treasure maps, and wreck surveys. Contributors' intellectual property is protected on-chain, while a free virtual maritime museum opens to global visitors, offering interactive 3D models of galleons, classical manuscripts, and echoing pirate shanties. All these digital threads weave a resilient net linking humanity and the ocean, past and future. We rely not only on algorithms to repel intruders, but on love and stewardship. As technology grows ever more sophisticated, our personal responsibility deepens because no matter how digital the sea becomes, it remains our shared home. We must listen to every drop of water, every creature, every sunken relic, ensuring our digital tapestry never smothers nature's heartbeat or human compassion. And when you close your eyes to the lullaby of digital waves, imagine yourself on a virtual quay, hand outstretched to touch the jade-green currents of data, each glowing beacon, each shimmering dot telling the ocean's eternal story, encoded to endure through time. As night's veil stretches across the ocean, it is time to close our eyes and commit to memory the full voyage. From the first pirates who rowed out to plunder, to today's radiant digital networks. From the simple slap of waves against wooden hulls to the beeping of radar on the bridge. From history inked in crimson to AI data updating by the second. The final passage of Chapter 10, and indeed the finale of our entire saga, will look back, honour and affirm that the sea, like life itself, never truly ends, but merely transforms into new currents, invisible threads binding humanity to nature, to our past, and to our future. We have learned from the earliest pages that pirates are not merely outlaws, but also exemplars of ambition, creativity, and courage, both in their virtues and their vices. They taught us lessons about freedom and its limits, how to soar without harming the ocean, how to explore without turning nature into a playground for crime. They etched into our memory the importance of organisation. Illyrian and Barbary bands operated as small armies, with clear hierarchies and tight tactics, secrets still passed down in modern navies. Across each era, antiquity, the Middle Ages, the Age of Discovery, the Golden Age of the Caribbean, the Indian Ocean campaigns, the modern, and now the digital, we find pirate footprints everywhere. The wreck of the Nuestra Señora de Atocha, Port Royal's ruined dungeons, cuneiform tablets in Sumer, bas-reliefs on Tripoli's forts, all remind us of human fragility before the ocean's fury, yet also inspire confidence that, with knowledge and respect, we can live in harmony with the sea. In the years ahead, as digital technologies, AI, IoT, blockchain, underwater robots and marine drones continue to evolve, the ocean will offer us unprecedented insight into the life beneath its surface, climate shifts, and the geology of continental shelves. Yet new threats, cybercrime, accelerated climate change, deep-sea incursions will force us to constantly innovate governance frameworks, strengthen international law, and raise societal awareness. A truly digital ocean may be our path, but a living ocean must remain our destination. a deep blue world, clean, biodiverse, and safe for every form of life. Remember that every vessel setting sail, whether an age-old wooden galley or a modern container ship, symbolizes humanity's yearning to transcend boundaries, to discover new horizons, and to protect what we uncover. When we blur the lines between tourism, research, security, and conservation, the ocean ceases to be mere backdrop and becomes a partner, a teacher, a companion, and a guardian of our collective soul. Now, as sleep beckons, let the memories of billowing sails, treasure maps, digital waveforms, and colourful coral reefs slip quietly into your dreams. In that dream, you might be a bold pirate for a day, then an eternal marine scientist. You may touch a sunken wreck and deploy a cloud of data sensors. There, past and future meet in an endless voyage, and each of us is a footprint, a signal, a chapter that opens and closes in the ocean's timeless rhythm. Tonight the sea whispers its pledge. Cherish freedom, but do not transgress its bounds. Harness technology, but do not overshadow nature. Honour history, but let not the past stifle our aspirations. When dawn breaks, the ocean will still be there. Vast, deep, beckoning new sails, new hearts and new dreams. And our journey, humanity's journey with the sea, will continue until no shore remains to explore. And even then, the ocean will still reveal fresh lessons about ourselves. Sleep well, mariner of dreams, so that upon waking you may once again join the eternal tale of the sea, of freedom and of responsibility, ever unfolding, like the steady slap of waves upon the side of the ship.